All right, I'd like to open the Village Council regular work session meeting, March 25th, 2021. I show the time is 9:06. And so also we have a full quorum, and before we get started, I'd like to ask, considering council members participate remotely. I see we have two of them, Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Mark Elise.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hey, Joe, can you either talk louder or move the microphone closer to you? I can barely hear you.
Yeah, it's cutting off every, there you go.
You there? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
That's a lot better.
Okay, so we're just motion to participate. I have motions on the table to participate remotely. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next up, we have adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes or,
You got some there.
okay?
Yeah, I've got one, which only because this is like super long agenda today, and I know Joe's got a hard stop at 12.
1:15. I have a 2 o'clock. I said it for as late as I could.
12 for me.
And we have 4 o'clock as well, Joe.
Can we table the gates and private road ordinance until the May work session? We don't have anything pressing there. Is that okay?
It's fine with me.
Not a problem on my end.
No problem with me.
Which one is that?
Gates and private road.
What number?
11,
Table it until when?
May work session.
And table.
We can table closed session too.
Works for me.
We can table closed session if y'all want to do that.
We could do that if we want for time.
Nothing pressing on closed
No.
session?
No.
Okay. Anything
Christine, are you
else?
talking to me?
Yeah, I said we can table closed session if you want.
I literally cannot hear a thing you were saying.
I really don't know.
We're
It's
talking.
breaking up.
We're
like
talking
every
very
third
loud.
word.
Yeah.
Austin, check the plug for the.
Oh,
Make sure
Hold on one second.
There's something on the internet. I know Rohit knows how to.
I know what it is. It's this connection over here.
Well, it's hanging down. That's probably why.
So
So
we might get more zoomed in here, but at least it'll be support. This stuff will be supported.
They can't hear you.
See if that's better.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, barely.
No, barely.
What about now?
That's better.
Yeah.
all right.
So the last I heard was tabling the gates. Are you guys good for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And then Christina said she could also. We're okay to table closed session. Are you guys all right with that?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, if we have time for it. I doubt if we'll have time for it though. So, and I do have a hard stop at 1:15. Anything else from anyone?
I think we need to ask stuff, but I don't have the list.
Yeah, we have the items I have.
Ignore the numbers on there.
Okay, add next. I don't know where we put this, but add item of discussion number 18. Discussion consideration of a resolution to reaffirm the Village of Marvin's commitment to contribute $220,000 to the right-of-way acquisition and construction of NCDOT Project U-6088, a roundabout to be constructed at the intersection of Newtown Road, SR 1315, and Marvin Road, SR 1312. So we need to add that for 18. Or that would be, actually, everything shifts down, so that would be
There's the resolution.
17.
The numbers are shifting around. So.
Yeah, numbers are shifting around, but we're adding that at the end of the items of discussion,
And you should have one, at least one. more.
which we removed one, so 17 becomes 16, that becomes the new 17.
Take one of those and give one to Jamie.
Sorry. And the other item I have a discussion, which would be number 18 on the agenda, is discussion of local bill to act to extend NCGS 160A-167- Defense of Employees and Officers Payment of Judgments to Persons Seeking Elected Office. So that's another item for agenda. Thank you. And then the last thing, we don't have to have this as the donation because I looked at the agenda, Austin, this donation of the historic items. We're gonna be talking in communication, discussing consideration communication topics.
We can just put it there,
So we'll put it there. So, it's something that we,
or you can do it in open topics, either
yeah,
one.
open topics. Okay, so I don't see a need for that. So those two items to be added. Anything else? All right. I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Amended.
So
Sorry.
moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no presentation today. Moving right on to Village Hall. Village Hall Design Finishes Subcommittee Update. Christina.
So we have a lot to talk about in Village Hall, but that's items of discussion. Basically, in a nutshell, what I wanted to just mention is that we have met for the subcommittee. Your minutes are actually in the minutes. The minutes for the subcommittee are actually in council minutes to consider adoption later in the work session. But just wanted to briefly mention that we had done nothing substantial, basically made some decisions on paint colors, flooring. We'll have a final report back to you guys at one of the next meetings. We wanted to show you actual samples and bring that forward at a later date.
You will love what we did with the place.
But that's all I have to report.
What?
I said they'll love what we did with the place.
They're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it. I promise
It's
you.
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I like dark fuchsia.
You will be happy.
Oh my God.
It's all purple all the time.
Purple rain, baby. Oh my God.
It looks like Jamie and Austin shirt.
Mixed together.
All
Sure,
right.
like it.
So anything else, Christina?
Not at this
We did
time.
have a good, very productive meeting, so that went very well. So, all right. So first on items of discussion, consider call for public hearing to be held at 6:30 p.m. on April 13, 2021 at Village Hall for conditional use permit number 21-12608. Address is 3315 Sandalwood Lane, pool in the rear yard that abuts the side yard. Rohit.
So moved.
Okay. Further discussion on that? All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Discuss and consider approval of resolution, next up, discuss and consider approval of resolution of intent to consider an ordinance amending the charter of the Village of Marvin to change the number of council members from 5 to 6 and setting the date for a public hearing to be held at 6:30 p.m. on April 13, 2021 at Village Hall. Discussion and consideration of entering interlocal agreement with Town of Weddington for solid.
You skip to the next.
Oh, stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
The
three
number-
was cut off by the circle. Sorry, I'm like, this keeps going.
So
All right.
this is basically a resolution per the last discussion that council had to go ahead and make the charter change to amend 5 council member seats to 6 council member seats. What we would do is be setting a public hearing for April 13th to give the public the ability to talk and in opposition or proponent of that decision. And then the public hearing would be held, and then we would move for an ordinance adoption at the May 11th meeting. This would set forth when that seat becomes vacant and when it's filled. But at this point in time, y'all are just making the motion to move forward with changing the number of council member seats to 5, from 5 to 6.
Okay, so do we need 2 motions, one for the resolution of intent and one for the public hearing?
The resolution would call.
Yeah, the
Resolution
the resolution actually calls for the public hearing, so you can just do one motion. It's in the resolution itself that you're adopting that.
Okay. I mean, I think we're all in agreement on this. Does anyone need to talk about it?
I think we kind of discussed it before. We just put it on the agenda to be placed on public hearing.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the resolution of intent to consider an ordinance amending the charter of the Village of Marvin to change the number of council members from 5 to 6 and set the date for the public hearing to be held at 6:30 p.m. on April 13th, 2021 at Village Hall.
Further discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, number 3, we have discussion consideration of entering interlocal agreement with Town of Weddington for solid waste service agreement and authorized manager to execute agreement contingent on attorney review. Christina?
Yeah, here's an updated version. It's changed slightly based off of our attorney review. I think that both Councilmember Markleese and Mayor Pro Tem has got the updated version, but it's not much different. It's just some revisions that were made by the attorney. But this is an interlocal agreement that basically sets forth our responsibilities with Weddington if we decide to move forward with the solid waste collection. It's been reviewed by both attorneys, both by the Weddington attorney and ours, and both are in agreement with it.
Okay, and nobody has any issues with this?
No. Not attorney-wise.
Okay, what about you, Christina, manager-wise?
I do not, no.
Okay. I don't know if it says this on the updated version, but it definitely needs to say village manager and not town administrator for Village of Marvin.
Yeah, we'll change that.
Okay. I'm good with it.
Sounds good with I am. They know
Yeah.
what I do.
Well, once you start getting into agreements, I'm not the one to, start changing terminology and stuff, but, anything else from any of the other council members?
No, nothing for me.
So Christina, you need to have us, approve this?
Correct.
All right. Anybody want to do it or you want me to?
Go ahead, Kim.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make a motion, I'd like to make a motion to enter into an interlocal agreement with the town of Weddington for solid waste service agreement and authorize the village manager to execute the agreement contingent upon any attorney review.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Kim. Next up, we have discussion consideration of solid waste request for proposals.
So,
Christina.
yeah, okay. So this is the last time y'all are gonna see the RFP. So if there's anything in here that y'all have read that you don't like, that you wanna add, that you wanna change, modify, we need to go ahead and speak now, because if it's not in this RFP, it's not gonna be in the agreement or part of the request. I'm gonna go through everything very quickly, because we've spent a lot of time on this already. Page number 5 just kind of gives a highlight of what it is we're asking for. Bid opening will be on May 7th. Projected timeline is on page 8, or I can't read these page numbers. I think it's page 6, actually. And again, you're gonna see some notes in this RFP, that some crossouts and stuff. A lot of this stuff is still pending attorney review. We have about 3 or 4 days until we have our final meeting with the attorneys. So a lot of these things that you'll see in here as notes will be marked out and cleaned up. But the advertisement will go out here shortly. The bids will be back on May 7th. You guys will make a decision on June 8th as to what we're going.
Christina,
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you pull that thing closer to you? I mean, I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Basically, our council will make a decision on June 8th, and the service will not actually start until March of 2022. After these RFPs go out, we have prohibited communications, so no one can or should reach out to you to talk to you about any of this, as far as vendors are concerned.
And the highlighted area is for what reason? Liability insurance?
The highlighted areas are the areas that we still need to talk with the attorney about. Proposals. So we do have the limits of liability insurance here. These are all pretty standard. We just wanted to make sure the attorneys agreed with this language. Moving on to scope of services, which is on page 10. Basically, the base contract that we will have is household garbage, and that's it. Y'all will see options for recycling, bulk, yard waste, hazardous household waste, Christmas tree collection, electronic waste, white goods.
So obviously, we can see two different, or help me out with this, we see two different bids, one for Weddington, because they may select different items than we do, and one for us, but we're using the power and numbers by joining forces, but we will have separate contracts, just confirming that.
So the question, I don't know if y'all can hear, but the question is, will we see one contract or two contracts based off of what we decide and what Weddington decides? Basically, we will see two different contracts. They will have their own individual contract with Weddington and then one with us based off of what we decide. We can pick and choose what we want. They can pick and choose what they want.
How are we going to, what if we choose God Bless America and they choose, Jimmy's?
That question, that's a good question. And I would need Jacqueline to fill in on that question, but I think that it may be a possibility based off of the numbers that we received back in the form pages that are attached. And I'll show you those here in just a second, but that is an option, I believe. But I need the attorney to clarify that.
But,
The intent would be for us to go with the same vendor for cost saving purposes, but
right, because the more the service, the more, yeah.
And I'm sure that's how they're pricing it too.
No, understand, but just, I don't want to get too deep into this, but let's just say they choose one, we choose the other. Is there a way for us to sit down and say, hey, why did you, is it gonna be sit across the table with them and to make a decision, or?
I would think at that point, then the town manager and their administrator would have a discussion of why they came to their conclusion, and then she would come back to us and report to us why they did that, that's what I would think would happen.
the intent, so there's,
Because you can't make a decision on your own without us, but you would want to know why they made their decision their way.
yes, so there's, can y'all hear them or no? Okay, so they're asking questions about Weddington and like them making a different decision and to why they would make a different decision if they did. There's language in here that talks about Weddington and Marvin getting together and establishing like a committee to make a decision, so we would be making the decision together. Lisa and I would sit together, come up with the criteria to establish the decision, and then we would make our recommendations to you all. And
Okay,
99% sure they're gonna be the same vendor.
okay.
Do you think that it would be a good idea to have a joint meeting with Weddington and us after we get the bids in to go, after you at least have had a chance to look through them?
We can do that.
So then we can,
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, I quite honestly don't want to have you guys present this to the board for the first time at a regular meeting. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be at least an hour-long discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Kim, that we get together both, and have a discussion about it.
So
I agree.
the deadline for the RFP is on May 7th, and then I'm presenting to you all on June 8th. She is presenting to her board on June 14th. So somewhere between May 10th and June 8th, we can have a joint meeting. It's just we're gonna have time to go through all of the RFPs and get everything in a bid tabulation sheet.
Yeah, and that's fine, and that's what I'm saying. I just think that, it would be advantageous so that we are all on the same page, so that when we get to the point of making a decision, that we at least know what Weddington wants to do and what we want to do.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and get that scheduled.
Trying to get something in here. Did you
No,
have something?
I'm agreeing. That's where I wanted to go in the beginning of all of this.
Okay.
So, because it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. So why don't we just jump the gun, sit down together and hammer it out so that we're all thinking on the same thing and go, Kim got it. So let's move with that.
So Councilmember Lyon and Wortman are basically concurring with you guys if you didn't hear that.
So we're not at the point, these are all the options. We haven't picked all of
We
the
haven't got the
options.
bids yet.
No.
That's correct.
Okay, because we're gonna basically go down the list of the cafeteria menu, check off the boxes.
Yes. And if
We
you
just
can,
haven't gotten there.
and I'll explain that in more detail in just a second, but I'll go ahead and get through the meat of the contract or the meat of the RFP, and then we'll go over how it's gonna work in the end. Rollout carts, each household is slated to get one rollout cart for solid waste, 96 gallons green, and one rollout cart for recycling, 96 gallons blue. We do have a level of backdoor service in the contract, which basically means if you're elder or sick, disabled, you can't physically push your car out to the road. A portion of our contract can basically require the waste hauler to go physically get those people's trash cans and roll them out and come back.
Can I ask one question real quick? Because you mentioned the garbage containers, one per unit. So my company I have now, they don't win the bid, but I have their containers. It's going to be the responsibility of the company that maybe own those containers. I'm not sure.
That we-
What's the transition there? Do we just,
Pick 'em up?
they surrender them and then the new ones come in and we all get it, or we're able to?
So the question is about transition in the carts, basically. I would assume that your current vendor would come and pick up your cans at some point in time if they're not the ones that's awarded the bid.
Okay.
And we would just have to work out an arrangement for delivery to our residents when the contract starts. So you may actually get your carts before your current one picks them up. So you may at some point for about a month have 4 different carts sitting out in your house.
But, if the homeowner refuses to surrender their container, that's gonna be between them and them because they have another contract with them. And that should be on us.
If the owner refuses to surrender their current carts, that is a civil issue between the homeowner and the
All right.
waste hauler that they currently have.
We like our garbage cans.
And just so we're on this
Get a
topic,
brand new one, Joe.
residents can opt to get more carts at their own cost. So if you have more waste than your typical household, you can consult with the waste hauler that's chosen and purchase additional carts or pay some type of leasing fee or something like that with them. Okay, moving on to page 13, real-time reporting. Basically, we want some technology that shows where they're at, when they're there, photos of things that are picking up or not picked up so that we can have evidence to substantiate some of the claims that may come at a later date. For example, if a resident calls and says, hey, they didn't pick up my trash today, they actually have real-time information about, yes, we were at this house at 12:46 a.m. or whatever it was, or p.m. And that we could substantiate the complaints at that time or unsubstantiate them. Customer service, there was a lot of information discussed about requirements of customer service facilities in Union County or near Union County. And so we do have some information in there that we want a customer service facility in or adjacent to Union County to handle complaints, and that office would be accessible from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's in there. Moving on to page 15, rates and increases. We've basically got some information in here that rates have to stay firm for 5 years, but they can have CPI index increases, which is basically cost of living. And that they can also have fuel surcharge increases if fuel increases go up more than 10% in a 6-month period. So that's pretty typical, pretty standard.
And refresh my memory, are we billing the customer or is the companies?
We are billing them.
We are billing
Yes.
them.
Additional services, that again is what I just mentioned about if you want extra carts, you can do that at your own cost. There's a big, huge liquidated damages section that's on page 17 and 18, 19. This is basically the teeth of our contract. It's in the RFP. Hopefully y'all have read this and make sure that you agree with this. This is really where we want to have a strong backing for the contract, because if this is where when complaints come in, this is where we kind of come in and grab them and penalize them.
Hey, Christina,
Yes, ma'am.
with that one, so like this last week when my trash was picked up, there was, trash all over the street in front of my house from my cans. Do we, is that number 9, so if I came home and took a picture of all that trash after they picked it up and I would send it to the village and say, hey, there's trash all over the street?
Yes, yeah, we would need to substantiate that for sure. And then, obviously becomes the argument, well, the homeowner did it. No, the trash collector did it. And the more evidence we have, the better fight that we have for this. But yeah, that it does say $3,000 per incident.
Okay, alright.
We put some pretty steep penalties in here. Very, very much steeper than what we've seen in our example RFPs and our example agreements. So these are pretty steep.
One thing I'd like to bring up in this, in light of this morning's witnesses from my wife, what about unsafe operation of their vehicles on the road?
So the question is, what do we do about unsafe operation of their vehicles on the road? And at that point in time, I would say today the answer would be dependent on if the contract is awarded or not. If the contract has not been awarded, then I would say we need to document and keep these things documented very well, because that is a determination in the responsibility portion of the award. So if we already have complaints about unsafe driving, running red lights, running school buses, that sort of thing, that is something that y'all need to consider when looking at the responsibility piece of awarding the contract. When we look at a contract, we need to look at price, responsiveness in the bid, as far as did they submit everything that they were supposed to, and the responsibility piece. And those three things are key in what decision y'all make. And so if they're not a responsible vendor, then that's something that y'all really need to consider.
What I'm getting at is, can we have something in here in these penalties if once this contract is awarded and we have this kind of thing going on? Is there some way to, some kind of a penalty for reckless driving or, running red lights, running school buses, those things? Because those are serious concerns. And, what's our recourse if we find these contractors doing these things?
So the question is, are there any teeth for complaints for unsafe driving? And the answer is, I don't think there's a liquidated damages part per se, but there is a section in here that talks about base requirements that they have to obtain and maintain, I should say. And so that would be a key for dismissal of the contract in and of itself. Breach of contract. I have to find the section.
I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
but I don't necessarily, I get where Andy's going with this, or at least I think I do, that even if they're unsafe, and that is terms for dismissing a company, then we're gonna have to do this all over again, and it's gonna take just as long, and it's gonna be a pain in the butt. I'd much rather have some sort of liquidated damages that it's like, if you run a school bus, it's $5,000. If you, run a red light, it's, $5,000, whatever we decide to do. But I don't think that we need to, I understand that it's grounds for terminating the contract, but then that's just gonna be a pain in the butt. I'd much rather monetarily.
I can get another provision added in here for red light running, speeding, school bus.
Yeah.
The problem is then going to come into play of when is it just being charged? Is it being convicted?
Well, I guess, you'd have to have proof, number one. And, but, the other thing is that I have to agree with Kim, because I don't want to have to do this if these guys are unsafe. Getting in their wallet is a huge deterrent, right? So if they get fined, even if the police, obviously, if they catch them, that's going to be a fine. But if we catch them on camera, just like my wife witnessed one run a red light this morning in front of her, if we have proof of that, there should be some kind of a penalty to keep these people under control. Because, I get it, they've got schedules, they've got time crunches, but they can't be unsafe. They can't be running traffic lights and school buses and stuff just because they're in a hurry. So I think, it should be some kind of a monetary penalty for it. And yes, we would have to provide proof somehow or another, so that's something we'd have to look at.
If you can't hear that, he's basically concurring that we need to have something.
No, I heard it. And for any of these, we're gonna have to basically provide proof, because otherwise they're gonna be like, oh, it wasn't us, it was somebody else. So yes, we're gonna have to do that, but there are plenty of people, especially in neighborhoods, that have ring doorbells, that have caught people passing stop school buses, that I would be more than happy to send that into the village if it's a trash truck doing it.
Yeah.
Or waste hauler.
There's-
So I think, Christina, if we can, talk to Chaplain about that and get up with Lisa and see if they're good with adding that. I think that's better than just dismissing and getting rid of.
Okay, there is a section in the penalties on page 19 that is number 24, and it's failure to meet any of the general requirements. I would assume that arguably we could say, there's a safety requirement in here somewhere. I'm not finding it right now in my general.
It's too ambiguous. They could be like, oh, that's not
Okay.
a general requirement. It needs to be specific.
Okay.
Let's be specific so they can't come back to us and be like, oh, you didn't tell us that.
I will try to get, I will get Chaplain to add something that's as specific as possible, but I won't be able to come back to you guys to get that portion approved, unfortunately.
That's fine. If you don't mind, just send us an email when Chaplain says it's good to go.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
okay,
Or you can forward us the email from Chaplain.
I will do that. Anything else on the liability?
No, it's good.
All right, good catch. Collection days, we basically said that it must be spread out evenly amongst 5 days. So whatever 5 days they choose. And that's not 5 days like we would have a truck in our neighborhoods. It would basically be, we'd hopefully have solid waste collection on Monday and Tuesday. Recycling maybe on Wednesday, if not the same day, but it's spread out amongst 5 days, basically. Holiday schedules there, emergency plan if we have something that happens. Collection changes, basically they have to notify us if there's any changes. The equipment here, y'all had mentioned the desire for a CNG truck. There's a note that you see here on page 22. We need to add a clause about CNG being preferred but not required. We have not yet done that. I'm just gonna keep going unless y'all stop me.
That's just something that the attorneys will add to
Yeah,
it
yeah,
in attorney language.
yep. Emergency unloading, that's basically if a load catches on fire, you potentially may see a load catch on fire in a truck and they have to stop and unload it in the middle of the street. Village spills and vehicle spillage, they basically clean up their leaks if there's any. Record keeping, they have to keep records because we have to submit it to the state. Selection process, this is something that Weddington and I will sit down and come up with basically a criteria in which we would make a recommendation to y'all based off of the cost, the quality, all those bulleted points you see there. Anything that y'all want to add? All right, we have the ability to also do interviews and presentations with whoever we select or, a couple of the finalists. Supplemental information, we will receive other information.
Christina, can I go back to that? That interviews and presentations,
Yes,
can that be done jointly?
yes.
Jointly as in.
That could be part of the joint meeting, maybe.
Good catch.
I just don't want, I just don't want to get in the back and forth and this get pushed out because two entities aren't talking to one another.
Christina, there's somewhere in there that they have to have the trash cans and or the trucks have to have village logos. Did we decide on that?
Yeah, I'll get to that in just a second, but it's in there.
Okay.
Um,
I'm an overachiever.
So the page 29 through 32-ish is going to talk about all the supplemental information that they have to submit. And this is kind of the qualitative pieces that we'll look at in this evaluation period. Do they have litigation history? Do they have good financial strength? A lot of these things are what we want to look at when determining what we think is the best suited candidate for this position. So that's all the stuff that we'll put together from an administrative level. Y'all don't have to worry about that. We'll summarize all that. The next several forms, Form 1, 2, 3, 4, those are all forms that are just required as a part of the bid itself. Moving on to page 41, Form 6, this really starts the meat of things. And this kind of goes along with the question that you just asked, Mayor Pro Tem. Form 6 is the base bid. This is your weekly curbside recycling for trash only. So you'll see how it says column 1, column 2, column 3. Basically, they will put their numbers in here, and we will see what it costs for Weddington, what it costs for Marvin, and then how they've itemized it out for Marvin and Weddington if it's awarded together. The reason we do that is because, well, not with this instance right here, but maybe one of the optional ones, but we want to be able to itemize out what Marvin's cost is gonna be as opposed to what Weddington's gonna be, because if they just give us one base number, we don't know what portion is ours and what portion is Weddington, so, let them do all the legwork there. That's basically the number that y'all are gonna make your base decision off of, whatever that number comes in at.
So that's, just to be clear, they're gonna give us a total number of what to do all the homes in, and it'll be separated, all the homes in Marvin that are Marvin designated, there's gonna be one number for everything. It's not gonna be broken down cost per household.
It is, yes, it will
Oh,
be.
it will be?
Yeah. It'll look something like this. I know y'all can't see this on the screen, but like, let's just say column 1, 1061, I'm just making up numbers. Village of Marvin, 1051, so we have a little bit, maybe we have a little bit less, I'm just making up stuff. And then if we combine it, you'll see a little more savings where we'd maybe be 25 cent lower than what it would be if we didn't do it combined.
That's per week?
Per month,
That's a per month,
yes.
okay.
Yeah,
So, okay. I guess because we are gonna be responsible for collecting payment, I mean, we're gonna have to have a separate policy, I'm assuming, and maybe you guys have talked about this with Weddington, a separate policy of how you deal with non-payment
Yes.
individuals.
we would
We'll
have, yes, we'll have to come up with a completely separate solid waste policy. Because that policy is gonna have to also include what residents can dispose of and what they can't and all that stuff. We'll have to come up with some type of ordinance for that. It's not,
Because it's basically like not paying your tax, because that's gonna be part of the service, which you can assume that that's embedded into the tax rate or whatever that we, and I don't know if we've decided that yet, if we're doing it, adding it to the tax rate, and it's gonna be an annual fee and then we're done, or are we gonna go through the monthly collection of a couple thousand homes and who's not paying, who's in, and then that becomes a administrative nightmare for us. And so, I mean, I think that's where we gotta get our head wrapped around. I just believe it should be a one-time cost built right into the thing. Whether they can deduct it as their taxes or not is a different story. That's up for them and their own accountants, but it'll be separated on our bill. The rate is 5.5 cents, whatever it is, plus your fee of garbage for the year. They could put that into their mortgage payment, because that's usually paid by their mortgage payment. This way, because I don't want to get into every month, you guys need, you coming back to us saying, we need an administrator to chase
So
down
that-
these people.
Put it in
The
the tax
question-
and be done with it.
the question is lying around basically how the money is collected and received and divvied out. And that's really step 2 of this process. We need to focus on the RFP today, and then tomorrow when we get the RFPs back, we'll focus on how we're gonna do that. So that's the next step in this process.
Okay,
We've got time to figure that out.
okay. One thing. Done.
The next form, Form 7, is gonna be weekly residential recycling. So the same thing applies, the same concept applies for the breakdown. The Form 8 is gonna be bi-weekly recycling, and then So basically, y'all will make a decision between Form 7 and Form 8 if you want weekly or bi-weekly recycling based off of the numbers received here.
Okay,
Those are the 2 options for recycling, or you can select none. Form 9 is gonna be bulk. Form 10 is gonna be bulk, and Form 11 is gonna be bulk, and they're basically weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. I know y'all have already expressed opinion that you do not want weekly and bi-weekly. However, Weddington wants to look at it, so we're gonna keep it in there for them. If y'all do not have to decide weekly or bi-weekly, we can basically scrap bulk altogether if we want to, or select one of them.
mattress.
Form 12 is going to be containerized bag yard waste. This is something we can decide if we want to do or not do. We don't have to do it. We'll look at the cost and see if we want to do it. Form 13 is going to be hazardous household waste event. And this is gonna be a one-time event for paints, chemicals that we can't throw away, that sort of thing.
That'd be something like we hosted at Village Hall or something.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
a year, that people just come and bring the stuff.
Yeah,
That
it's-
is, I guarantee you that is needed here.
It is not this is not curbside, so yes, it would
Yeah,
be somewhere
yeah,
we put a
But just
dumpster.
having a
That would-
place
yeah.
once, twice a year, whatever.
If the
People are
cost is
always
good,
painting,
that's
doing
awesome.
stuff and.
Form 14 is gonna be seasonal Christmas tree collection. And assuming we do not select yard waste, actually, I'm not even sure if it coincides. We've actually changed this so many times, I'm not 100% sure. But basically, we would look at what it's gonna cost per household for the Christmas tree collection. Form 15 is electronics. This is a seasonal curbside electronics event. So basically, if you have an old TV in your basement, your garage, you wanna throw out, you pull it out to the street once a year. Same thing
Can't
for
do it.
Form 16 is the same thing for white goods. That would be a water heater,
Refrigerator.
refrigerator. That's a one-time event, once a year. Again, you can select it or not select it. Form 17 is gonna be the logos on the trucks. So this goes with your question. It's not a requirement that they have the logos. It's a cost that y'all will analyze to see if you want to make it a requirement or not based off of the total cost. With-
But the cans will definitely go on it.
No, that'll be the next, Form 18. You'll see the same thing on that.
Yeah, thank you.
We've heard from vendors that it's very, very costly to have this. I necessarily don't believe it. So we wanted to put it in here just to see what the cost was gonna be
For what was that?
for having the logos.
on.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
you've got-
depending on how the doors are made and stuff like that, if they're metal doors, it's easy to slap a magnetic
sticker.
thing on, and then, you know, when they're running the,
Vinyl is cheap. Vinyl.
Talking about vinyl
you just print it and
stickers.
stick it. It's cheap. I don't know why I've done this, I don't know how many times, getting logos put on my equipment.
but, yeah, they'll be on
It's
there
cheap.
permanently though, right?
No, you can take them
Peel
off.
it
They're
off.
stickers.
It's vinyl sticker, goes on the door. That's what all of these, things are on vehicles.
And they just remove them, you replace them?
You can use
Or-
a heat gun, you heat
Oh.
it up, and you peel it off, and the paint's still there, it's done. It's that easy.
Metal's so much easier.
So
You just
is
throw the magnetic thing on there.
is there any
All right,
questions?
let's just see what they come back with.
Are there any questions with any of that? Any comments, concerns? Because speak now or forever hold your peace.
I think we got it this
Okay.
time around.
All right, so the next couple of pages is the actual agreement that we would be signing with the vendor. There's a one in there for Weddington. Weddington is exactly the same as ours.
And in talking to Lisa, just out of curiosity, did they come up with any ideas or anything that we may be missing? Or we're all on the same page with everything? It's gonna be the exact same, so.
Yeah,
Obviously.
I mean, we've been working together for the last 3 months on it, and any of the ideas that we've had, we've hashed out and put in the RFP, so. I don't recall anything that's just completely crazy that's out there that I need to let you know. It's in the contract or in the RFP if we've discussed it. The only major thing that I recall is they had a couple of roads in their jurisdiction that maybe not would handle certain tonnage of a truck, but we put provisions in here where if the vendor selected couldn't handle the roads and they had to physically go, like, take a different truck or go out there and walk. So,
Right, because we may have some roads like that.
Robinwood may be like that, but at least at certain points in time.
Okay.
And that's all I have. So again, this RFP will be going out here shortly. Y'all will not see this RFP again. This is really the teeth that we're gonna have to hold these vendors to any issues that may come up.
And any
Later.
more reviews by the attorneys or attorneys for them and us both agree on the same? All
Yes,
of that? Okay.
we've been working together for a substantial amount of time, both, all attorney, like their attorneys and our attorneys, and both administrative staff.
Okay.
Any questions from y'all?
need, so, but I will.
And I just want to obtain a
I'll
consensus,
get it
y'all
back.
are okay with this. I don't really need a motion second, just if everybody's in agreement.
Thumbs up. Bob, Kim, you good with this? Thumbs up?
Need a motion for this, Christina?
No,
No,
just
okay.
asking of consensus. Are you guys okay with this? Any other
Oh, yeah,
changes?
I said, I'm good.
I'm good.
Sorry.
All right. All right, so that being said, we move on. Item number 5, discussion and consideration of awarding construction bid to lowest responsive bidder in amount not to exceed to be determined for the construction of sanitary sewer to serve parcel 06225390A, corner of Newtown Road and Marvin School Road, and authorize manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review.
I think I already passed one of these around, actually.
Yeah, you-
I just look at the subject. I didn't change the memo on the subject, so it's wrong. But, here. Do y'all have one of these? That has, it's actually one of the ones I passed out, because y'all didn't have it in your agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Wasn't this it?
The paperclip.
No, that's not it.
Well, you just hand me this.
Yeah, that's it.
Same thing.
All right, so basically, in a nutshell, y'all recall that we separated the two projects for just various reasons. The two projects being the sanitary sewer that's gonna feed, our corner lot at Newtown and Marvin School, and the Village Hall project. We expected these bids to come in at about 100,000. They came in at 78. We did only receive one bid. The reason that I submitted it out for a formal bid is because I thought they were gonna be much higher than what they actually were. Our policy does state that staff is required to obtain 3 bids, 3 quotes. That's on the back sheet of that memo. And so I'm asking you, based off of the number of vendors that we sent this to and just the likelihood that we would receive the same outcome, to waive that requirement. That 3 bid requirement is not a statutory requirement for this dollar threshold. So we're not doing anything illegal by waiving it, it's just waiving our policy requirement, and to go ahead and award that bid to Sunshine Construction in that amount listed.
And have we talked to Chaplin about that?
We have,
Confirming?
yes,
And it's cool?
yes.
Okay.
In the interest of getting it done time-wise, because we do have a time crunch on this, I'm good with.
So we did put, it's either 2 or 3 month completion date in the contract, in the RFP. So the vendor is aware, I think it's 2 months, but it could be 3. I know the engineer was arguing for 3, and I think I met him in the middle of the road. The reason being is because he felt like some of the permits and approvals from the county weren't gonna be back in time, but we did put a 2 or 3 month completion.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to get it done as soon as possible, and that number actually is surprisingly good. So, I'm good with it, if everybody else is.
I'm
I'm
good.
good. So if somebody wants to make a motion, what I've passed out, I know Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Markleese may not have the information because I literally just typed this up yesterday. So if one of y'all in-house wants to make that motion as I've got outlined in that memo that was just passed out, that'd be great.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, I can't do it, I don't have the paper.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion
Same.
to award construction bid to lowest responsive bidder in amount not to exceed.
No, the memo.
That's the
Oh.
requested action.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to award construction bid to lowest responsive bidder, Sunshine Construction, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $78,957.20, with a contingency of $7,895.72 for the construction of sanitary sewer to serve parcel 0622539-0A, corner of Newtown Road and Marvin School Road, and authorize manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you want a motion to waive the 3 bid requirement?
Oh, yeah. Can you make another motion to waive that?
Waive the 3
Waive
bid.
the-
If I make a interruption here, on behalf of Kim and myself, Austin, there seems to be, everybody's voice is clear, but it seems to buffer. In other words, it waves everybody's voice. Is there anything that you can do with the computer?
If you guys are not talking, make sure you're muted, just because that is causing some interference. I've been texting Rohit about it. So I think everybody's muted right now. I really don't know what else to do. We are waiting on a new cord for our setup here that should help fix the issue.
Talk that way.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, see, even when I was on mute, I was listening to you and
I don't know.
Okay, this is about as close as I can get. Is this good? Okay, so
Saying that we can't hear him.
oh, he's muted now.
But what did he say?
He said he can't hear him.
Is it just a USB hub?
Unmute.
Can you hear
I'm-
him?
Just unmute
Barely.
first.
I mean, it's better when he holds it up to his mouth, but like when Jamie was talking, I knew he was saying something, but I could barely hear what he was.
So, like I said, if you're not talking, make sure you're muted, because that does cause some interference. We're waiting on a new cord for our setup here that should hopefully fix the issue, but we just don't have it yet.
okay.
If you guys, like, whenever you guys talk, I mean, I know it's gonna be a pain in the behind, but if you could grab that thing and just get it closer to you, because it is really, really hard to hear.
That's about as far as it goes.
Fairness.
Or just talk really loud like I do.
Hey, I can hear you clear, Kim. You and I just talked. huh?
Thing.
We will try to do that.
Yes, we.
Okay.
All right.
So
I need another motion.
to waive the 3 bid requirements.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 bid requirement for the awarding of the construction bid to the lowest responsive bidder
For the sanitary sewer. For sanitary sewer.
for sanitary sewer.
Should we put it based on attorney?
He's already reviewed it.
He's attorney review. Okay. Further discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
Get
When are they gonna
some
start digging?
I've muted everybody, so
The question was, when will they start, and I have to issue a notice to proceed. I don't know the answer to that question
Okay.
until I issue that.
Thank you. All right, next up we have affirm the design review board approval of the Village Hall project located at the corner of Newtown Road and Marvin School Road, with any recommendations for each, the site plans, building plans, or landscape plans.
So at the time of this writing, we had not fully secured approval for the design review board of Village Hall, which is why the motion is worded that way. They did not have any recommendations. So I'm just asking for y'all to affirm their recommendation to approve the site plans, building plans, and landscape plans for the Village Hall project, as been discussed over the last several months. All the plans are in your agenda packets as they have recommended and approved.
So did they change anything from what that marathon meeting was?
They did not change anything.
Well, then,
Well, the marathon meeting that you're referring to, the joint meeting, I'm sure some changes were made. I don't recall specifically what changes they were, but y'all have already reviewed those, I think, 2 or 3 times.
most of the changes came out in the construction documents.
Okay, nothing else there?
No, I just need affirmation that y'all approve their recommendation.
So a motion to affirm their findings.
I'd like to make a motion to affirm the findings of the design review board
And approval.
and approval
of the village.
The village hall as DRB has reviewed.
All right, further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
She's just looking blank in
Yeah.
his face.
Motion passes. All right, next up, we have discussion consideration of awarding construction bid to the lowest responsive bidder in the amount not to exceed to be determined for the construction of the village hall to be located at 10006 Marvin School Road, allowing manager to negotiate with vendor to reduce overall project cost and authorize manage to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review.
Okay. So this is a big one. At the time of the agenda writing, we did not have the bids back. However, since then, we have secured the bids and created the bid tabulation form. I did revise my memo to the board as of yesterday, and I believe I gave the documentation to both Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Markley, so y'all have that updated memo with the bid tabulation sheet. Just for anyone listening at home, I will mention that in 2019, we did go out to bid for the new village hall. The lowest responsive bidder at the time came in at $1.7 million plus the cost of any facade detail that we wanted to add on, which was roughly $10,000 to $25,000. At that time, that was more money than we were willing to contribute to the project, so we wanted to explore other options that were financially feasible during that time, which consisted of...
Christina,
Yes.
can you grab that thing? Start over with the numbers. Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
You gotta talk like this.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So in 2019, Cancel went out to bid for the Village Hall project. The lowest responsive bidder at that time came in at $1.7 million plus the cost of facade, which was around $10,000 to $25,000. This was more than what the Cancel was willing to contribute for the project at the time. So we wanted to sit back and explore other options that were financially feasible, which consisted of exploring the retrofit of a couple of different residential houses along Newtown Road. It also included the exploration of long-term leases at our current property and adjacent properties. Also explored the opportunity to enter public-private partnerships with 2 or 3 different people along this corridor, which proved to be unsuccessful. So then we decided to modify the plans and to change the scope of the site plan, which basically reduced the project scope and in turn reduced those project costs. We did release these RFPs in February. They were out for a month. The bid tabulation is in your agenda packet, has been modified. The lowest responsive bidder was 1.435. There is a bid tabulation sheet that is attached to that documentation that looks like this. That basically tabulates all the different responders to the project, their amount, and all the supporting documentation that's required per statute. It also includes the total and unsuitable costs, which are any excavation of rock that's found at the property. The lowest bidder, as we've determined at a staff level, was Randolph and Son at 1.435000. And then you'll see the second responsive, or the second lowest, and third and so forth. I've put them in numerical order. So in addition to this total cost, I do want Cancel to consider the cost of furniture, AV, security, access control, landscape, parking, lighting, and a contingency that are not included in these numbers. I just want to mention that. We will come back to you all at a later date for these numbers. In the updated memo, I am asking for approval of number 1, the lowest bidder being Randolph and Son. And then over the last couple of hours, I have secured evidence of him trying to get his MBE, which is the minority business participation up. Or, I'm sorry, I've got to sneeze. Let me see that right there. Basically, the village has a minority business participation goal of 10%, which would roughly equate to $148,000 or $143,000 in this project. This bidder did come back at a low MBE participation. So I did ask him for evidence that he tried to get that number up. This is a call log. Y'all see this? It actually goes on the back. These are all the vendors that he sent out information to try to get sub numbers back, and they did not respond. These date back to, they actually sent an email and followed up with a call. I've got all the documentation here, all the emails. They're actually dated emails. So it looks like they've done their due diligence to try to get that number up. I will say that it is a goal. The statute says that we have to have a goal. The statute does not define what that goal is. And we are not using any state or federal funding for this project at all. So I would like to request that you guys, number one, find that Randolph and Son is the lowest bidder. And number two, that you found they are responsive in terms of this MBE supporting documentation suffices to prove that they tried to do their full faith effort to obtain those MBE requirements.
And again, if I could just add on, and maybe for those at home or anyone listening in, keep in mind, there was a pause. There was an initial plan to build at the corner. Then there was a pause, and not only, and that did cost the village some money, but in the end, we did a few things. We did our due diligence with all the landowners that were identified in the Village Heritage District to determine if we could do a public-private partnership with that, and the fact that we tried to work something and none of it panned out, and working with all the separate individuals when we contacted them, either looking at properties or looking at a place to build. So we ended up back at the same corner. Again, we had to change some, I think, I don't know specifically, but some money was spent by the village, but in the end, with this second bid that we got, the savings was almost $400,000,
I think it's closer to two.
$200,000 savings for the village. So just want to kind of make that very clear that what we were doing was trying to obviously save costs, and I was actually very pleased to see the bids come in where they were, given the situation of today's market and construction costs. So so with that, I guess, given that Christina's done the work to, or the company at least tried to make the effort, we need two things. Is that correct, Christina? We need moving forward with the lowest bidder, and also before we do that, agreeing or do you need consensus on that?
No, I'd like to have a motion on both.
On both?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion first that we looked at the evidence that the construction company, Randolph and Sons, presented to Christina, that he did make an effort to reach our goal. However, the responses, he didn't get the right responses, but so we need a motion for that first.
So move.
And can I
Yep,
clarify that
please.
motion? Okay. So the motion needs to be that the council has looked at the evidence of Randolph and Son and concurs that they have submitted sufficient evidence that they have attempted to meet the MBE goal policy of the Village of Marvin.
Okay.
Somebody wants to so move that.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So next we'll need a motion to approve and award the lowest bidder to Randolph and Son at the amount of $1,435,000.
Joe, pull it closer, we cannot hear a thing you're saying.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the second thing. We need a motion to approve the contract for building Village Hall to the lowest bidder, which is Randolph and Sons, and at the amount of $1,435,000
With a contingency.
with a contingent. Hold on, with a contingency of $143,500 for the construction at 10006 Marvin School Road, and allowing the manager to negotiate with vendor to reduce overall project costs and authorize manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review.
Now, wait a minute.
So moved.
Wait, before.
Further discussion? No.
Okay, so does this, okay, with that, that's a 10% overage, correct? Is that
Correct.
what you're figuring?
That is a 10% overage.
So, I'm just wondering, should we authorize a larger percentage based on all of the bids? How far they are spanned? Are we gonna end up with a bunch of change orders and add-ons to be able to attain completion? And do we need to have a little bit higher contingency for that, so we don't have to come back and re-ask for more money?
So the question is, do we want to bump the contingency up slightly higher, seeing that the overall project cost, the bids were lower than the median of the responses? The question is, do we need to bump that contingency up higher so that we don't have additional change orders that we need to come up with the money for?
And everyone is muted at the moment. So, just letting them know.
One no.
I can't hear you.
We're asking if we should consider bumping up the contingency from $143,500 a little more, only because the bids came in, the bid that we're awarding came in lower than the median.
$200,000
That's right, yeah.
lower than the median.
$200,000 lower than the median price, because in taking that contingency actually takes care of any change orders, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Funds change orders that could possibly come up
So-
during this
Make sure
process.
procedurally we're good.
Yeah, no, I got it. I mean,
That
if,
motion.
I mean, I think bumping up the number may make some sense, and then if we don't need it, it just goes back, right? I mean,
Right.
It goes into what we've already agreed to paying him, yes.
It just allows Christina to appropriate the funds if change orders come in without having to go back and request more money.
right. No,
Right,
I know, but if we don't use, say we bump it up another $100,000, if we don't use the other $100,000, then we get it back. It's not like we've used it. It's not like it's,
We're
correct?
going, the question, to answer your question, yes. We would basically award him the 1.4, and we would have a separate pot of money that we would tap into, that I have the authority to say yes or no. If he comes back and says, do you want to do this, do you want to do that? I would say yes or no based off of what's in that budget. If we don't use that contingency amount, yes, it doesn't go directly to that vendor, we get it back. We keep it.
We just have it in a pot.
Yes.
It never goes to them. It's just there so she can utilize it when, say, a change order comes up.
I
Okay,
got it. Christina, do we use the contingency number to secure our loan?
The loan really isn't gonna matter on the contingency or vice versa. We will decide what we want the loan amount to be, period. So we've got the loan out there for 1.8, and when we get those rates and stuff back, we can decide at that point what we want it to be.
And that contingency amount, I believe, will be pulled from our funds that are already allocated to that building, correct?
It's either or. The question was, are the funds pulled from what we have sitting in the bank now, or are they pulled from the loan? It's either or. It doesn't matter.
okay.
Doesn't matter, right?
Procedurally, if you guys are changing the amount of the contingency that was previously just stated in the motion, we'll need another motion.
Right.
Yeah, we'll redo the motion, and my suggestion is to go to 200,000 from 143. Because that's the difference between the median and the low, so just to get it at the median to keep that, so.
So I think we have consensus and we're all good with that, but let's
We need to
reread the
retract the
motion and
You
put in
you don't need
change
to
the numbers.
retract the motion. You can just
He's
make a
gonna-
new motion to
He's
essentially.
gonna make a
amend it.
new motion right now, so.
Okay.
That's fine.
So I'd like to make a motion to award construction bid to lowest responsive bidder, Randolph and Son Construction, in the amount not to exceed $1,435,000, with a contingency of $200,000 for the construction of Village Hall to be located at 10006 Marvin School Road, allowing manager to negotiate with vendor to reduce overall project costs and authorize manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review.
Okay. Further discussion? All of those in favor?
Alright,
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I still
And-
just,
And just to let you guys know, we are doing an AIA contract. We have started on that with our attorney. That's pretty standard, pretty typical with vendors. We will do a notice to proceed probably either today or tomorrow, so the vendor will be aware of that. And that they are pretty adamant that we get the contract signed. I think we have 10 days to sign it per the RFP anyways. And they're pretty adamant that they get the contract signed pretty much immediately so they can lock in the rates with their vendors of supplies, which is pretty important for them, and to keep these costs low. And then we will look to start the project, as fast as we can. We're still in the permitting phase. We hope to get those back by the end of the next couple of weeks. And once we get those back, they are ready to start. So we do have a completion of the project from 8 months from the notice to proceed. So we should be in there by the end of the year, hopefully. Any questions?
I still just have a hard time giving it to the lowest bidder.
No.
I know. I'm kinda,
I just keep thinking of the space shuttle.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I brought that up yesterday that, unfortunately, that's how government
We're racing,
is
we're
required.
racing to cut corners.
right.
It's a race to cut corners instead of. but
Well, I
just-
asked that question yesterday in the, in our meetings, can we even go look at what they did? Because they have 2 examples, right?
They do. Their representative projects were Tegakay Fire Department, and the police department. So we are going to take a field trip over there to see those facilities and see the.
Not that it's gonna matter because we just approved.
Correct, but we could at least see things that they have and see if we want to, make any small
Do
revisions.
Do those 2 places know that we're coming over there?
They do not yet. I did call them yesterday, but they do not yet.
See, and I know the work of Haas Construction because I know that company personally. They do a lot of schools and churches. They do a lot of municipal work. That's what they do. That's all they do. Municipal.
They were second lowest.
They were second lowest. They were 50,000 more, or 60,000 more. They were at 1.498. I know their work. I know that company. It's just
Right, but it's, again, by
But we can't.
our state statute,
No,
I believe, I don't
got
think we
it.
have
I got
anything we can
you
do
know, I
that.
just
That
So
was
just-
my hesitation, but if you do go over there, I would like to go. If I can't make it,
I can't hear you guys. Are you guys on the economic discussion?
No, not yet.
no.
no, Kim, I'm just talking about, I just still have heartburn over lowest bidder. And we were talking about that. They're doing a field trip to go over to the 2 examples that they gave of projects that they had done similar. And I was just saying, I would like to go. If by chance I can't go, if you could ask the appropriate people, what was their overall experience? Could you see that they cut corners on X, Y, and Z?
Let me see that for a second.
Playing hot potato.
Why do you have heartburn over the lowest bidder?
Well, I mean,
Think space shuttle.
it's obvious. I mean, it's just the race to cut corners and who can cut the most corners. But you're cutting corners. I don't care who you are and what you're building. And again, the first thing that goes in my mind is seeing the space shuttle blow up because we went to the lowest bidder. Sorry to the family, but we just went to the lowest bidder.
Don't we have to go with the lowest responsive bidder?
We do. That's why I
He's just
said.
making a point for the
I'm just
record,
making
even
a
though we
point.
made the approval.
Austin, let me see that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I really just cannot hear what you guys are saying.
Right.
It's brutal.
So I will say that Tegakay hired them, I don't remember the exact years, but they hired them for a project 1 year, and then 2 or 3 years later, they hired them again. So,
That speaks volumes.
yeah.
So.
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's hard to know if you're not familiar with these companies. It's hard to know what you're going to get. I agree.
Yeah, just for the record, it is what it is. For those listening, state statute requires us to choose the lowest bidder that has met all the, what do you call it? All the parameters that we have given them in the contract. They all had a fair shot at it, so it is what it is, so.
I mean, on the flip side, you know, it does keep costs from running away and things getting out of control. So
Totally
that's,
get it, I'm not arguing that, I just,
that's.
So I know y'all can't hear, but they're basically summarizing the statute and the need to, go with the lowest responsive bidder.
Thank you.
Alright.
All right, moving forward, we are at number 8, discussion of statement of economic interest and code of ethics form. Austin.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this brief. Can you guys hear me? Bueller.
Oh, hang on.
Kim, can you hear me?
Nothing.
alright, now I think.
Let me make sure, let me check the connectivity of the cords. Let me make-
I heard was, Kim, can you hear me?
What is
I
that?
didn't hear it before that.
What have you got?
Can we
Yeah, that's all I
call
heard.
them?
Yeah, let's call them on the phone, so they can have an alternative way to hear us.
They can turn their audio off on
Oh,
the,
you got.
This is,
keyboard.
yeah. The one that runs here is the microphone.
hey, I'm gonna call Bob.
Is the microphone extension cord?
Yeah, no,
Have we tried that?
You and me
Could
call Bob?
possibly
No, I got
be just this.
It has to do with this connection over here because it hangs. And-
So
but
maybe
I'll put it up here.
just-
can y'all mute your audio on the computer?
Let's try taking the extension cord off the
Alright,
mic and see. if
we're
that
good, y'all.
helps.
They can hear us much better here.
I'm just wondering if the
Okay.
extension cord may be the culprit here, but
Can you guys hear this?
What would be very helpful is that, like, I mean, and I do it all the time, and I'm totally guilty of it with the side conversations, because it makes it 1,000 times worse for me to hear. what
Stop
I'm
side
saying.
conversations.
Can you guys hear me through the mic now? We tried disconnecting the extension cord.
That's terrible. That's terrible. I hear that.
Hang on, let me mute this. Try it now.
Can you guys hear me through the mic?
Yes, very clear.
Okay, it's the extension cord,
we
man.
just
So,
remedied the issue. Alright, cool.
Well, I'm gonna hang up.
Okay.
Alright.
Is that better, Kim? Bob?
Absolutely, yes, that's a whole lot better.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Glad we got that resolved.
extension cable.
Oh my
that's
gosh, that's 1,000 times better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
So we are on to number 8, discussion of statement of economic interest and code of ethics forms. Austin has the floor.
Before we do this really fast, is everybody clear on everything that was just talked about with Village Hall? Do we need to re-clarify any points?
no,
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
that's fine then.
Okay.
Okay, so briefly, so this is the latest form. Most board members have turned in their forms.
different last year.
You can
Go ahead.
okay. You can check David Humphreys on the Board of Adjustment off the list. He turned his in last night. I'm going to try to reach out to these people again to get their forms. I sent a scary email a few weeks ago, as Kim likes, to get them turned in. Lots of bold, lots of red.
Hey, Austin, how long have you been asking for this?
So I kind of wanted to prevent what happened last year where we were chasing people through the fall. So I've jumped on this a little earlier than normal, starting like in
Okay.
January or February. So I've just been reaching out at every board meeting and like an email a month. I'm going to have it on every board's agenda until they've got them all turned in. But they're due in April. I can't hear you, Kim.
You're muted.
You're muted. I
She
hear
can-
her over there.
Jamie can hear, but we can't.
That's
Okay, let's pause and figure this one out.
That was weird.
Yeah, there's
All of a
always.
sudden she went, we can't hear you.
I know.
That's a
They might
beautiful.
have turned off the volume there.
We can hear you,
Oh,
Rohit.
that's Rohit talking to
Oh,
me.
there
I'm
we
like,
go.
Rohit.
Okay.
Now we got
Okay,
you.
we're good. We're good.
Okay. I was like, okay. Have the people that you are missing acknowledged the fact that you have sent these requests?
Let's see. So the only one, I'm looking through the list. The only one on PRG is Sherry Albano. I've not heard from her about the forms. The only one on planning board is Mark. I haven't heard from him.
He's resigning, right?
I am not aware of that.
No, the Mark's not.
Not Mark.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he is.
If that's happened, it has not been communicated to me in writing, which is what's required.
Okay.
Mark?
Okay.
Is Mark resigning? No, he's
That's what I've heard, but I don't know that.
I have not.
Well,
That's not.
let's not start rumors if we haven't heard from
Yeah.
Sue.
So, I don't know if this has happened. If it has, just disregard this. But if it were me, I would, if Mark Peterson, if Mark Peterson's not gonna be, I would call John Jones and I'd put the onus on John. John, you're the chair of the planning board. You need to get your guy to do it, or he's off.
And I have talked to John. We did this exact same thing last year. And it's not just Mark. There's other people that haven't turned their forms in. Some of these people do not check their email that often. Like I said, I'm gonna reach back out to Sherry, who's on PRG and the committee. I need to get back in touch with Mark on the planning board. The two last members on the Board of Adjustments, Tom Marr and Mike Gilboy, and with the committee, and Dorota Clegg, TJ Philbrick, and Sherry. And they're the only ones.
And again, if they don't want to do it, then we have to have something that just says you cannot attend another meeting until you.
Well, when it says in our policy that the completion of these forms does not preclude serving. So, you guys can.
We should not pay them. We should not pay them their stipend until they do this.
Well, the only ones that gets a stipend is the planning board and PRG, and almost all of them have their forms turned in. No one else gets a stipend. Board of Adjustments doesn't. The committees don't, unless you guys specifically choose to give them a stipend.
But so if we can we change the policy to say that they cannot serve until those forms are. I know that's a policy change, but
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think we went through this already with Chaplin at the time of the creation of this, and if I recall correctly, we didn't really have any true teeth to making this a requirement.
well, we do in a sense that we have the authority. They serve at our pleasure.
Except the Board of Adjustment. You can't remove them.
Right. Okay. So they serve at our pleasure. So the bottom line is that you're maybe send a letter out saying if we don't have it by this time, you risk being removed by the council because you remind them they serve at the pleasure. Because these are requirements that we are asking them when they did their application and they put everything in and we agreed. They also had there's an agreement that they need to meet,
Is
and
there
they're
some
not
kind of
meeting.
penalty against the
But see,
village if they
I don't
don't?
think-
We'll have to ask Chaplin that.
I'm gonna go out on
This is a
limb.
village policy. So we're not going to get penalized for someone not turning in a form. That's our own internal
That's all I
policy.
want to make
But
sure.
I think the issue is the email, and that's why I said I would go directly to John, because if I didn't sign something and you went to Joe, and Joe's not gonna email me. Joe's gonna pick up the phone and he's gonna say, hey, dude, what are you doing? We got this form, you're making us look bad. Go to Village Hall and sign the form. That would be extended conversation. So instead of email, it's unfortunate for you.
I'm gonna call everybody that's left because there's not that many left.
We're not
That's
saying
the problem.
call them. Call the people that are
No,
the board
call-
chairs.
I wouldn't don't call Mark Peterson.
No.
The hell with that.
Okay. I can do
call
that.
John Jones and
John
say,
Jones
John,
and John Barisic,
Yeah.
make them responsible for their boards.
call John.
And that's fine. I have
Yeah,
talked
say,
to John
get your
before.
guys in here or don't let them come back in until.
Right.
This is not, y'all will see this again next month. So we'll talk about it again based off of what results we have this month.
And this, like I said, this will be on their agendas at the next meeting. And I can put a scary message there. I can say, council wants these forms done, otherwise you risk being removed. That's not a problem. I can say that.
Have the, if you could, have the forms that are still needed, if you could, and this is a recommendation, have them ready to just hand the board members to hand them out.
Most of the boards do meet purely remotely. Very few members of boards actually show up at Village Hall throughout the pandemic. So I do usually send them via email. I usually put them in their packet so they can turn them in. That's not really an issue. And one thing that I've been doing with future appointments and reappointments is I wait until I get their forms before I send you guys their application to be considered for an appointment or to be reappointed. So that way we make sure we're getting a meeting.
I think in the end, we change a policy that basically says, until you have submitted all the required documentations to be on that board, you cannot serve on the board. However, you are approved to be on the board.
Okay, we'll ask Chaplin about that, because I'm pretty sure we've already had this conversation. Y'all will see this again at the next meeting, so we can have this discussion again if we need to, but I'll clarify that with Chaplin.
Can I make, one comment?
Just one?
I just contacted, John Jones, and Mark Peterson is resigning.
Oh, okay, well, I need that in writing from Mark for that to be considered.
I know, I just let you know.
Official.
He did it before the meeting.
Did he?
Has.
Bob, did he by chance say why?
Yes, he said because he's
Sort of a new
extremely busy and, he has, an illness in the family that he needs to tend to.
Okay.
You know, if you're talking to John, Bob, just tell him I need that in writing from Mark for it to be official. I can't take someone's word.
It's another form.
Yes, sir.
It's another form you need. Okay. That being said, we can, I think, move on safely to the next item 9, which is discussing consideration of candidate questionnaire and candidate questionnaire policy.
So I've got a few things to pass out. So let's start with this. These are the applications that you guys used for the last vacant council seat.
Do they have this at home?
They do. Yeah, Kim got it yesterday and I sent it to Bob. And so take one and pass it around. And this is the draft policy. And once you if you have any extras, just hand them back.
Post-it note.
So yeah, if you have the extras, just pass them back. I was about to say, you should be familiar with this, Andy.
Okay, can I start?
Please.
So, I'm gonna start with the policy first. It all looks good, kind of in the middle. It's probably like dead in the middle. It says those wishing to use this questionnaire to share information shall, and then it says complete their submission online before a week elapses from the candidate filing deadline. I would give them a little bit more than a week. I might give them like 2 weeks. Because now, as much as I don't like hand-holding adults, because I think that we're all adults and we can, if we want to find out information, we should be able to go out and find out information. But I do think that we need to advertise that if you have, registered with the Board of Elections, we have a questionnaire form, please fill it out, it will be on the website. So I think maybe give them like 2 weeks. And then I think that we should put this information, and I don't know if this needs to go into policy or if it's just something that just needs to be made a note of, but maybe put it in the policy. But put this on the website 1 week before the election and start advertising it. So really they would have about 3 weeks to then fill it out before the deadline.
1 week before the registration period begins.
You said
Yeah.
election.
Now, okay, so
Yes.
you want to advertise just that narrow window.
Registration, I'm sorry, yes, the registration starts, sorry,
So you want to advertise in that very narrow period.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That was one of my questions. I didn't know if you guys wanted to do it just within that narrow
Or maybe
period, or
longer. Or maybe, I'm open to it, but I was just thinking like a week before.
To your point about hand holding, but I think we can maybe also not only have that, put that out there, but also it's public information once they submit to the Board of Elections. I would recommend that we get that information, and from a clerk standpoint, saying we have an opportunity for you to get your message out to the community of what you stand for, something to that effect. And this is the form that we are going to put out on our website. This way, they may not get the email or whatever, they may not be on it. Maybe a person that just moved to town and is not on the website, or may not get that information. But it's public
I agree with that,
information. Yeah, it's public information. Does that make sense?
That's why we give 2 weeks after the registration period to have them fill out the form, because I was trying to get back around there, but I do think that the village should reach out to whoever has registered and just say, hey, here's a form, if you want to fill it out, great, if you don't, fine too.
Now, how are we gonna handle, and not that this wouldn't happen again, write-in candidate?
That was my second question.
We're not, they haven't registered. So they have to register with the Board of Elections. If it's just a write-in candidate, then you're a write-in candidate and you don't get to put your
Take
information
the
out there.
risk,
You
yeah,
have
you take
to-
the risk of not having the same
Exposure.
exposure as everybody else.
And that may
right?
tie in a little later to what we're gonna be talking about on what we added to the agenda too, is, how, from a defense standpoint, if things get wacky in
Mhm.
lawsuits or we're gonna look at it as, did you officially, register, I think is where we're gonna go. We haven't talked about that yet, but that's something to consider.
Few quick things.
So do you understand what we're asking you to do?
Yes.
You gave me a look that where there's sort of uncertainty there. What's the concern?
Just distancing staff from political candidates. That's my only concern.
Yeah, all you're doing is reaching out to them in a very basic, saying, look, the village has established a way for candidates to communicate to the community, and this is your opportunity. If you'd like to participate in it, fill this out, and we will put it on our website. That's it.
I'm not familiar with how the.
Go ahead, Kim.
I had one more thing to add to the policy.
Well, hold on a second. What was your concern?
I know, but it goes to this.
Okay.
I'm answering that question. So under the section that says those wishing to use this questionnaire shall not, and then the last thing should be ask staff to answer questions coming in from public.
Where is that at?
That's not on here.
I'm adding it.
She's adding.
Where are you adding it? This
Sit-
questionnaire
sit-
shall not.
Under the
Those
bullet
wishing
point,
to
ask
use the
staff to advise
questionnaire
updates.
shall not, and
Okay.
you add that.
So say it again, Kim. Mayor Pro Tem.
Ask staff to answer questions regarding their platform coming in from the public.
I'm not getting what you're actually saying, Kim, and we have some confused faces. Like, what do you actually? I get those wishing to.
Okay, let me answer. Because Austin is very concerned that Joe Schmo from down the street in Marvin is gonna call in and say, hey, Kim said this on her questionnaire, what does she mean by that? What's going on there? What's her view on that? Is that not correct? So anyone wishing to use this shall not be asked, shall not expect that staff is going to answer those questions.
I think by adding the term opinionated / non-factual in front of the word question would suffice some clarity there.
So how
That's
would it read?
subjective though.
Ask staff to not answer opinionated or non-factual questions.
How about shall not ask staff to answer questions regarding other candidate submissions.
Right. That's
Any candidate submissions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have already sent this to Chaplin. I will have him review this once we're done with it, and I'll put it on the consent agenda for April, if that's okay. A couple other points of clarification. Do you guys want? So basically, what this would look like is on the website. They go there. There'd be a form for them to fill out. Do you want them to be able to upload a photo?
I have no problem with that.
I think they probably should, because if you're gonna fill out the questionnaire, they gotta know, people put a face to who the candidate is.
Is the photo required or optional?
I said it's optional. I mean,
Well,
it's
the form is optional, so
Okay.
if you're gonna submit the form, I mean, I suppose it's optional to put your picture, but it's a good place to put your picture so people who know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to make this clear. And I know, Kim, I don't see you anymore, but I hope you can still hear us. We got to make this clear. So it has to be as objective from your standpoint as you see it. And then if you have questions, you can't.
Oh, I'm not involved with their submissions. All this is automated.
But
Yeah.
no. You will be, because if it's hold on.
Sorry.
Make submissions that are unrelated to the questions. Who's gonna determine that? You?
That would be me, yeah. If it's
Okay,
if it's a policy
that's
violation.
my
yeah.
point. So I would say, I don't want you going to council existing thing and say, have us decide, is that appropriate?
Yeah.
I think you go to the attorney or through Christina that goes to the attorney. Because there's gonna be some possible, you're gonna read this stuff from candidates and go, is this allowable? And we don't wanna put that onus on you. I'd rather have it put on the attorney saying, hey, this is in the spirit of what we are trying to accomplish. This is how we're going to handle that question that they are unrelated to the question. It's not for you as a clerk to decide that, you know, so. Does that make sense?
So are you?
Yeah, it makes 100%. Put the ownership on the attorney who we pay for legal.
Right.
not the clerk who's not an attorney.
And then you know, you gotta think about how you're gonna remove that. You just remove that sentence, you remove that phrase or whatever, because I can see use the platform to attack other candidates. There could be, or the current mayor, the current mayor pro tem, or the current councilman. I mean, it's just, it can get really ugly in the weeds when you start receiving these questionnaires that are supposed to be, and again, for the public to know now, these are basically the questionnaires that we provided to appoint
How does this,
individuals.
you said this is all automated. Does this automatically generate on the website when they submit it, or is there a process for you to?
There has to be a check system.
Yeah,
before it
yeah,
goes
before it goes
on.
live.
So we haven't worked this exactly out yet because I was waiting for authorization from you all. But two things. It does say on here any candidate that violates this policy has their submission rejected. So if someone answered one question and violated it, the whole submission would be gone, according to what we have written now.
Okay.
The way the process would work would be someone would make their submission online, it would come to me, I would review it. If I see something, red flag, I would either get with Christina or the attorney. Decision made there. The candidate, that person would be informed and documentation kept, of course.
Okay, so then it never gets.
It never makes it onto the website. Everything that gets on the website would go through review.
Okay, well, I'm good with that.
Have you worked out that First Amendment rights and stuff?
Yes, I went through it with the chaplain. His main concern is just boxing this in enough because once we provide a platform, it's hard to put limits on it once it's been established.
Right.
So that's why we're doing this on the front end.
So, in that respect, do we want to limit the amount of words? I know that in the past, hear me out, because I see facial expressions.
I'm a
No, that's okay. But in the past, if because there's going to be news outlets, true news outlets and places that are saying, hey, here's your opportunity to speak your piece. But they basically tell us, you got 500 words or less to talk about what you see as the vision for the village going forward. I think we need to sort of limit this to each questionnaire I think it's fair to do that, and all we're doing is I look at this as a public service. There's a lot of people out there claiming to be, the press and that when they're not legitimately the press. So we're trying to, and they have access to a lot of individuals. But then you have the true press, which is the news channels and the local papers, that kind of stuff. We're just providing this as a service for that. But I want to make it clear to all of council staff, we are not to be involved in this. Like, you're not coming to us with any questions on this. This is going from you and keep it nonpartisan and because I can see how this could become an issue if you're asking us or bringing it up on the agenda, quite frankly.
So do you want a word or character limit per question or per entire questionnaire? Because I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to get this thing set up.
Put it out to the council.
Because it's easier to do, I guess you could do either, but it would be easier to do per question rather than per questionnaire because they're going to be filling out multiple fields. So.
Yeah.
So.
And then, if you see it's really long, I say it's per question, 200 words or less. what's your vision, or, you know, maybe some, I don't know. This is for the council
Yeah.
to decide.
As in most forms, it just goes
No.
by each one and.
Well, you could just put a field in the questionnaire. When you put it on there, it limits it to a certain amount of characters.
And then it
Yeah.
shuts them
It's
off.
done.
Okay, it would keep account. I'm just asking you, what do you want that to be? So when I go in with the website guy,
250 characters.
500 characters or
500
less?
characters.
characters you blow through really fast. Words you don't. So I'm
Okay.
because characters count spaces and punctuation.
500 characters.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Yes.
500 characters.
Because when you run out, you find a way to reword it.
Yep. Yep.
So
Once you run out,
500
And that
You
puts it
figure
all
it out.
on them, and rather
what,
than you
what
having
words can
to
I remove?
proofread everything,
And-
and puts it on them.
Yep.
That's it. It's done.
You all right with that, Bob and Kim? 500 characters?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
On each question.
Each question.
Yeah, on each question, and I actually changed some stuff on the questionnaire. Do you want me to walk through it with you guys?
Sure.
One quick thing, I just checked this out. 500 characters only equates to about 80 to 85 words on average. That's very short. Just letting you know
That's fine.
that's
Well,
very short.
I guess maybe it would depend on the question too.
I would recommend word count, but that's me. If you want to make something more clear.
So how about 100 words or less each question?
So, yeah, each, just FYI, just if I did real quick,
Yeah.
each line is about 20 words. Almost 20 words. So,
Yeah, we could do it at 100 words. I mean, I got no problem with that. You just don't want it to go on forever, like this discussion.
which
Okay, so you guys-
Austin prefaced this, but this will be really short, by the way.
I was hoping.
Okay, so do you guys want me to go over my changes?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Hey, Christina, I sent a text to you with a picture of this. I don't know if that will help. Okay, so so at the top, it would say candidate questionnaire form. We would get rid of fax number. I would get rid of, please list area of expertise, interest, skills, okay? So my first question would be, how long have you been involved in the village? That's an easy, and in what capacity?
I don't know.
Don't poo-poo it till I'm through, and then you can add to it
I
or
was gonna
poo-poo
go
it
down
later.
each one, but.
She's adding a new number one.
And do you want to put these questions in the actual policy?
No.
'Cause-
Oh, I don't know, maybe you do. Yes, you do.
So that means the questions will be the same no matter when this questionnaire is used in the future,
Yeah.
unless they change the policy.
Well, that would
Okay.
that would make sense. Then it keeps it uniform.
Yep. Okay. So then, how long have you been involved in the village and in what capacity? That's the new number one. The new number two is what have you accomplished during that time frame? Number three is what are your top priorities for your term? Number four is how do you propose addressing those top priorities? Number five would be what's your long-term vision for the village and how will you accomplish them? And then six, the other six. Council meets twice per month. Can you make those? And that's it.
So that is a question, the twice per month. Why is that being put out on we have policies that they gotta be at meetings anyways. Why is that? That's something that they just, if they get elected,
Yeah.
you wanna get paid, why are we even putting it on there to put out to, so I think we can eliminate that is what I'm saying.
I agree with Joe for an elected. I get this for application for a vacant council seat. That's a valid question. But for somebody who is running for office, I don't think we
Okay,
need
take
it.
it off then. We all agree. Take it off.
Okay,
Next.
so then, what's your long-term vision for the Village of Marvin? I'm totally fine with that. And 500 words or less. And how do you plan to accomplish that, or if you want that? Okay. The other question was,
100 words.
what? Because I don't have those in front of me, Kim. That's why I wanted to do.
500 words.
That's why I wanted to do it individually, because we don't have your questions in front of us, the new ones. That's why I wanted to do it
I
one by
know.
one. Okay, so, but the one that you started right away is, I don't know if there's, we're setting and just hear me out here, we're setting a standard that, for you to be considered to be elected, we want to, you have to prove that you've been part of the village or have participated in the village. You know what? Guess what? There's a guy that ran for federal office that didn't do a damn thing, but got a lot of stuff done. You know, in my view.
Then that's fine. Then they can say, I haven't done anything, but here's what I want to accomplish.
I have no problem about wanting to accomplish, but a prerequisite to having having
It's
served
not
on some
a pre-
capacity.
It's not a prerequisite. We're not saying that you have to. I just want to know what you've done and what you've accomplished during that time.
But I think we're kind of honing it in just right on the village. It's just like, maybe tell me past experience of being, you know.
I think Joe's point is it implies that that might be a prerequisite by asking the question on the form.
This is almost kind of like
Can
how
hear you
when
again,
the
Jim.
surveys are certain times the way you ask the question and what questions you ask. I think it just should be just general questions about what are your concerns about, what are your current concerns about the village of Marvin and the
So-
direction it's going, and what do you,
So-
you know?
Okay, instead of going around and around, because we're all going to say, well, let's do this, let's do that. How about everybody change it, and then we can send
Hey.
all of our changes to Austin. Austin can compile them and then send them out, and we can do our homework before our next meeting, and then we can come back and say, I like this one, I like this one, I don't like that one, I don't like that one, and then put them all together.
I like that,
We're gonna make
Jamie.
copies of
No,
this.
I was just gonna say, because Kim, I totally agree with you, I wanna know what they've done, but doesn't have to necessarily be the village of Marvin, so maybe the question would be restructured to say, have you done community service in the past? Please elaborate, and I'm just generalizing it, because it may be that they did it in Weddington, and they moved to Marvin, and they want
Right,
to do it again.
exactly.
So instead of saying, have you worked at the village of Marvin, it's not a prerequisite, but it's just saying, have you worked in government in the past?
Or have you done any, what?
Okay,
Okay,
we're going to keep going around and
Okay.
around. Everybody put your stuff down, do
Okay.
your homework,
good.
and then give it to Austin, and then do your homework for the next meeting, and then we'll talk about it. Did anybody else do anything?
On writing new questions down, I didn't write necessarily new questions down, but I agree with you about certain things in here don't need to be, you know, in here. I don't even know if it matters if you need to, you know, put your subdivision down. It's your name, address, and are you a resident, your current resident of Marvin? I think that's important.
I think the subdivision is important, Joe, because that just gives you, it gives the public generalization of what part of town you reside in.
Okay.
You know,
That's fine.
it just shows.
All right.
where you're-
Well, let's do this. Kim's got her head back and she's like,
She's like, reading
you're not listening to me, what I'm trying to say. So
La 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 la.
I think the direction Kim is asking us, all go back and do our own little things and submit them to,
Yes.
and then you can present it to us in the new questionnaire, and then we just go down the line, yes, no, and then be done with it.
So at the April regular meeting, I'll bring back this policy. It'll have your guys' questions in it, and then you guys can make a final strike through, add on, and then we're good from there.
Yeah,
Sound good?
All right, let's wait for a hit up.
just so you know, it's sometimes how you ask the question too. All right, next up. Moving on to number 10, discussion of noise ordinance.
So I'll go ahead and take this. Basically, long story short, we had a request to reduce the noise ordinance. Right now, our noise ordinance is generated by decibels. We do have I don't know what they're called, a decibel meter. We have not gone out and checked this property to see if it violates the current ordinance, because the complaint inferred that it was generated from the pool that's at this property, and the pool is currently not in
It's
operation.
winter time. It's winter time, Christina. Who's in the pool right now?
So, I can't tell you if it's actually in violation of the noise ordinance or not, but we have a request from a homeowner.
Is it the?
So that's a public record. Can you tell me who the person is and what the
Yeah,
request is?
yeah, it's Miriam
In
Keller.
your agenda packet, Joe.
No,
Did you
no,
not
no.
read the letter that you
Yeah, I
sent?
know, but I'm doing this for the verbal,
Well, you
the
can say it.
recording.
So there was an email to me on Friday, February 26th from Miriam Keller, or Carol, I'm sorry, asking for a potential text amendment to reduce the allowed decibels in our current noise ordinance. It does not.
It looks like in this letter that she said that they moved in 2017, and she is now complaining about it 4 years later.
That's what it says in the email, that in 2017, a house fronting the last on Marvin Road.
And
Yes.
should we be calling the social services because it's a house full of teenagers? Should we be concerned that there's no adults living there? I mean, that's very concerning to me.
I would infer. I mean, I would assume that there's parents living there, but I don't. I mean, I obviously don't know that for sure.
Family of teenagers. What's that?
Okay, so
I'm just gonna tell you, you can't legislate, you can't legislate stupidity, you can't legislate there's some things you can't. And to say 8 to 8, you're never gonna get my vote on it forever. Not gonna happen.
Me neither. Moving on.
She needs to have a respectful conversation with her neighbor. I'm sorry, and that's what I would tell any neighbor, but to say from 8 to 8,
Yeah, it's got, I think government, to your point, government
Decibels
getting
are
too
tough.
much in this. We already have a law, if they're breaking the decimal or whatever it is, then they're violating, the sheriffs can take action. We can't legislate.
We've done our job. Now, if something happens in the summertime and we can go out and substantiate it and check the decibel level, then that's another story. But we can't go out and check it right now. It's winter.
And the setback requirements, that ship sailed. That pool's been there for how many years? You know, I agree, we can't,
we already have an ordinance in place, correct?
Correct.
yes.
So there's a
All right,
consensus. There's no interest in pursuing a text amendment. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't need any, we're not directing any.
Correct. I'm good.
Next up, we removed the gates thing, table that. Next up, number 11 would be consider approval of general fund budget ordinance, minor correction, revision to OR-2021-03-02 to appropriate excess salary dollars in the amount of $23,000 in the culture and recreation budget to increase the hour per week for the public facilities manager. Help me out.
So moved.
Yeah. Go ahead. I mean, it's just a corrective ordinance. She so moved it. So I don't know.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Is there a motion there or
Yes,
just?
it's a motion.
Okay.
I so moved you.
Oh, okay. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next up, number 12 would be consider adoption of general fund budget ordinance to amend various operating expense lines in the general government and planning and zoning general fund budgets.
So moved.
Christina.
Yeah. Minor amendments.
Okay. Everyone okay with what was presented in your packet?
Yes.
All right. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Next up, number 13 is consider approval of March 2021 tax refunds.
So this has been revised since this was in your packets.
So moved.
I'll give you guys the copy so you can see. Kim, you should already, Kim, I don't know, I think Kim has this, I'm not sure.
Like,
I don't,
no.
I have one.
She has an old one,
Okay.
and so does Bob. The total, the bottom line refund is different.
You got a motion on the table.
Oops, sorry.
$262.
Okay, so the new amount is $362 for the 3 individuals that are listed on the form. Anyone have a problem with that?
Nope.
All right, need a motion to approve the March
So moved.
2021 tax refunds. All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next up, we have discussion of Marvin Heritage District next steps. Do we have Rohit?
Sure, I'll start this one off. So after this month, we've kind of converged, it seems, on the idea that the next step for the Marvin Heritage District should be that we should move along with creating a final version of the zoning that we would then
Austin,
just put through a normal,
It's Rohit's micro. He needs to speak up.
Rohit, can you speak up, please?
yeah, how's that?
That's better.
Perfect.
Better? Okay. So I'll just repeat some of the stuff I said then. So what we determined, it seems by consensus, not really by any votes, but that we should move forward with the creation of the zoning district for the district. And like whatever the feasibility may be for what we decide, we do have enough information to make some, minor inferences, but it's not really necessary to involve the property owners once again in some sort of round of revision. So where I'm at right now, and while still nothing is finalized, I would be presenting a final draft of basically the density and housing allowances of commercial and residential to the committee, the Heritage District Committee, on April 1st. It would be a very interesting conversation because while it's even after that meeting, it won't be the final, say everything you want or no other opportunities will be available because we still have a couple meetings left. But that's where we're at right now. And I do have a final draft, and after our Coffee with Council meeting, I tweaked it a little bit, but it's just continuously being tweaked. And I also wanted to, I think at this time, I would also mention that I talked with N-Focus about what their opinions are on the next steps. And they think that it's a pretty good plan. And that they would recommend at least some, if not the whole district being drawn out, at least one corner of it, just so that, everyone, us planners, property owners, residents at large, and council members, and everyone can get an idea of what is being proposed and not just looking at text. So they did recommend that at least one corner of it where all different types of uses converge, that we should draw out at least kind of like a sketch of what would go in that corner. So there's a couple of things on the table right now that I brought up. One is that I bring the final draft to the committee, and 2, request to let Tom draw out what comes out of that committee, and just like a corner, but not the whole thing.
And what was the reason for not the whole thing and just a corner again?
Because the council has been consistently stating that they don't want to spend public money on visualizing the entire district based on our zoning. That we should just create the zoning in language and let the property owners come back with a site plan, but they think they're at N-Focus that it's not a good idea to leave it completely up to the property owners to visualize, and that we could at least take a hand in just a corner of it, which would not really take that much time, maybe just a few hours.
Kim, do you want to take this?
So then we pick one corner and we don't pick a different corner, so then some landowners could be like, well, you did it for that corner and you didn't do it for us, so you guys need to pony up the money to do it for us now. I'm out, like, I'm done. I don't think that we need to be doing anything else in terms of spending the village's money on helping landowners figure out what they want to do with their land. I think we laid it out at coffee with council and it was, I think, in a very good spot when we left it. Was you can have houses here, you can have residential here, you can have commercial here, you can have a mix here, you can do this there, you can do that there, and then let the landowners come back to us. And we can go ahead and rezone it and go ahead and take care of that and figure out that process. But in terms of doing drawings for people,
We're done.
how do we pick and choose that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And keep in mind when we, because we looked at possibly taking on DFI again for another, spending more money, and we all decided we shouldn't spend any more money. So keep in mind when you, Rohit, are working on, let's call it monopoly, trying to figure out what goes where, that's actually village hall money that we're paying you to work on that. So we need to kind of have, I'd rather see kind of what we talked about, and if Kim, you want to summarize what we got to, the Heritage District is what it is. Certain, we're not looking for winners or losers, but based on how it's all laid out, instead of taking homes from one side, moving them all to another side and having high density, we're basically looking at the whole Heritage District and making it very simple from a zoning standpoint, where this is zoned for X, this is zoned for Y, and that's what the zone is. And then it's up to the landowner working with the developer to come to us under a conditional use plan and say, okay, you allow commercial in this area, here's what we're proposing. And then we also leave it at the same breath, we leave it up to if landowners join each other and they want to combine to create maybe a little more commercial space and utilize both properties to do the buffers, we'll entertain that too. But that's not for us to decide. We just got it for your job, Rohit. I see it as, okay, as a planner, you're getting the proposal from the developer. You're not putting everybody in their place there, but you're getting the proposals based on what we changed the zoning to. You're getting the proposals. Does that make sense? And does that fit into the overall umbrella of the Heritage District, and does it fall into the land use plan? Because we really shouldn't be spending any more of the dollars, no offense, that we're paying you to do that, because there's other issues that I think are more important than us figuring out what's the best use of land and how can we benefit the landowners individually. Did I make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've recapped that. I think that's, to me, I'm like with Kim and with you, this was put to bed.
And what we showed you, Rohit, I think if you move forward with what we left that council with coffee, we simplified the map. That goes to the Heritage District first from a procedure standpoint. They look at it, then does that go to planning board next, and then, or does that come to us, or when do we get involved in
I
that?
think it goes to planning board next, and then.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so let's start with that, and then let's try and limit our time that we're moving pieces of the puzzle, and and have you focus on the more important things, and that's again the opinion of one. But if I can get consensus from council, then that would be great.
I'm with you, Joe, 100%. I feel the same way.
I think we're all unanimous on this.
All right.
So can I then get a consensus today to just move forward with presenting a simplified final draft, like a simplified zoning district version of the final draft to the committee next week?
Yes, and do me a favor, Rohit. just for council members that weren't at Coffee with Council, send them that map on an email or something so they can at least see what we, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be that, but it gives you a general idea. We can change it after those of Heritage, but you guys are actually seeing a map that he has shown us before, but we're back to, instead of the into the weeds, we're basic. Here's the area, here's what we're thinking, what belongs.
Good deal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Austin, could you add that to my action item?
Oh, yeah.
We're also going to be sending it to the planning board because they requested it also at their last meeting.
Yeah.
So is there a consensus? I didn't hear it.
Yes,
Yes.
I believe there is, yes.
Okay, good.
It doesn't get
Okay,
into the
and
weeds
then
of
the
spot
non-
zoning and all that kind of stuff that can happen, so. Okay,
Okay.
we good?
All right then, that's what I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have number 15, discussion and consideration of changing Village Hall office hours.
So technically, we're still technically closed per the COVID. We have not officially reopened, although we've been casually reopened in appointment only. But as we're reducing restrictions, I'd like to consider us maybe changing the office hours from Monday through Friday, 10 to 2:30.
We're not open on Fridays though. We're closed Friday.
Monday, did I say Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Monday through Thursday, from 10 to 2:30 and closed on Friday. It's not really a major reduction.
You're the manager. You decide. I don't care.
Okay, well, we'll proceed with those if there's
Care a little bit.
questions or concerns. Okay.
You always let me in when I need to be here. So. That's all I care.
As long as it's communicated to the public when
Yeah.
our hour changes and stuff
Yeah,
like that, so
exactly.
they know when we are available from a government standpoint. All right, next up we have number 16, review of council meeting minutes from 2/19/21, retreat 2/25/21, work session 3/8/21, joint with planning board 3/9/21, budget work session 3/9/21, regular session 3/10/21, and special meeting 3/10/21. Village Hall Design Finishes Subcommittee.
Is that enough minutes for you?
It was a lot. All right, so
I'm
we'll,
good with all of them. I don't have any changes.
okay, as we go for February 25th, we'll start with that one. The only thing I saw, number 8, it's on the 3rd page, timestamp 250. We talked about NCOD at the very bottom is requesting an additional 105 for the construction of the roundabout Newtown Marvin Road. Council discussed this in depth and directed Ms. Amos to contact representatives about poor service provided. Council agreed by consensus to provide additional funding at a future date. Did we not tie that to getting some sort of additional funds from the county, or didn't we discuss something like that?
What page was that on again?
It's on page 3 of 8 of those minutes.
I thought it was tied to,
What I remember from this was that you guys gave a blanket statement that there would be some funding at a future date. You just wasn't going to say how much.
okay, but this says in here it's 105.
That's separate.
Well, they're requesting
There
105.
was 205
Yeah.
amounts, Joe. One we absolutely had to do. That was a
Okay,
given. The other
okay.
one was in the future.
So maybe we just clarify additional funds separate from the 105 original one that was, I don't know if I want to reword it, just for clarification. I just thought that was tied, we didn't commit to the additional 105. We just said.
You said you would provide something. You just didn't say what.
Right. Okay. So can we just,
It says an additional 105 in the.
It says that DOT's requesting additional 105 for the construction,
right.
and then below, council agreed by consensus to provide additional funding at a future date. But you guys said to leave that ambiguous. I can clarify. That's not a
Well,
problem.
that's what I said. Additional funding may mean, because they state additional funding is 105. So in the minutes, are we saying, I don't think we're saying we're necessarily giving the 105. I think we're saying we're giving something.
There were two 105s. The first
But
one you.
they're talking about, in this, the way you stated, they're saying requesting an additional, that's separate from the original 105 that we did. They're requesting additional, and then it says in there that council agreed by consensus to provide additional funding. That's ambiguous, it's not really.
That's what you guys asked though. You want it to be ambiguous.
Say an undetermined amount.
There you go,
of
there you go, that's all
funding.
I'm,
At a
that's
later
all
date.
I'm asking, because I just don't want them to assume that that additional meaning that we're agreeing with the 105. Is that okay?
I got
You
you.
guys all right with that? All right, thank you. I had, showed that we were bringing back the town hall ideas to March 25, but we moved that, we've already made that went to PRG. So they are working on all the things based on our meeting with them, right?
Not Town Hall, Marvin Day.
Marvin Day, yes, okay. And
Yeah, it's on our future agendas for like at least the next 6 months so far, and it'll keep getting added.
okay, and so then the only thing I would add then at the very end, agenda items, timestamp 6/12.
Where,
number one.
which meeting minutes are you on?
Same one, page 7 of 8. Just to get clarified, so we're not missing anything. It's fourth bullet point down, Ms. Amos will confirm with NCDOT Council's agreement to contribute additional funding. I just think we clarify as an undetermined amount of funding for the roundabout. And that's all I have for that. That's all I got to say about that. Other than that, I'm good. So, do we want to approve all these?
So really you adopt these from the consent agenda at the next meeting. So you really just need to tell me to put them on the consent agenda.
Okay, all right.
So you really don't even need a motion.
We're not a motion to adopt. We're just changing everything. Okay. And
I mean,
What do you mean? You just have to tell me to put them on the consent agenda. You guys don't need a motion.
okay, put them on the consent agenda as amended.
yep.
So any other changes to any of the other ones?
I'm looking. Thought I had
Nope.
it somewhere else.
No,
Give me a sec. I'm making sure I'm. I was distracted because I was watching the Barrett Jackson car show when I was looking at all these last night.
Oh, Lord.
I can't afford to watch that show.
Okay, I have March 10th, 2021 special meeting for the Village Hall Design Finish Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Yes.
All right, just for the record, the council did not approve an interior design person.
Yeah, I don't know why she's in there listed as staff. She should just be down in the business items listed. I'll take that off.
Okay, so remove her, but have her in attendance and assisting us at no cost to the village, and make it clear that we did not, because I think it was decided from this council that we were not going to compensate her in any way as a village. And I don't know if we want to say, because I just like having actual, no offense to you, Kim, because I think you're doing a great job on the committee, but having a true professional there just kind of overseeing and agreeing with us is she tends to agree with you more than me.
Yeah, why?
Yes, she does.
But full disclosure, I've used her on a personal level, and I just thought having her there would be helpful she has been helpful for the record. She's had color schemes
Thank you, Jared.
all that stuff, so,
Thank you.
yeah, so. Anyway, but I just clarify that from a staff level, that she is not being paid
She
by
have
the.
expertise in like fluorescent fuchsia.
She does, believe it or not. And she
Fluorescent.
can find that person that can make that fabric for you
Best
too.
friend
so
should be
that's-
fluorescent fuchsia.
Okay. So bear with me here, because I was going through the rest of them. I think that looks good. That's all I had, guys. So With that said, and no other changes, I'll need a motion.
You don't need a motion. You just need to tell me to put them on the consent.
Put it on the consent agenda, please.
Put it on the consent agenda to be approved,
As amended.
as amended. All right. And moving on. Next up, we have communications.
No, you got the extra items.
Oh, sorry, I don't have. did
It's
you?
right there.
Okay, sorry. Item number, I guess that would be 17, add discussion consideration of resolution to reaffirm the Villages of Marvin's commitment to contribute $220,000 to the right-of-way acquisition and construction
You hand it
events DOT project U 6088. A roundabout to be constructed at the intersection of Newtown Road, SR 1315, and Marvin Road 1312. Who has this?
I do. This is just an affirmation that we are agreeing to the $220,000 that we have already committed to in the DOT contract that we redid a couple months ago. The reason for this is our legislator has been working on getting some additional funding and some additional things to go inside this project, such as the photometric plans, and they needed a resolution to affirm our commitment to the project as we've already agreed to. This is part of the process that Representative Willis needs to enter his negotiations.
So it's just reaffirming that.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's not an additional 220. It's just reaffirming that contract amount that we've already agreed to, and it does reference the project number here and the supplemental agreement that we've already agreed to. Chaplain has reviewed this, mocked it up with several changes, and what you see is Chaplain's.
So what we've done is he's basically using it as ammo.
Correct.
For going to the powers of be on the Raleigh side of the world to move this project forward.
Yes, and if pending that y'all approve this, I would need you to go ahead and sign that resolution today so I can send it off.
So once the meeting's over, I'll need to change the ordinance number and then print out a
Okay.
copy for him to sign.
But you already wrote, I didn't see the resolution in this because this.
I passed it out at the beginning of the
Oh, you
meeting.
did?
Yeah.
Do you need another copy, Joe?
It
I
looks like
may, because
this.
that may got buried in.
Looks like this.
Yeah, yeah. it got
Here's an
buried
extra.
there.
I think y'all have a copy of this.
Yeah.
Y'all should.
It was in your packet that we gave you yesterday.
I'm like you think that I can see that? Yeah, I got it yesterday. Good.
Councilmember Markleese, you should have gotten this yesterday. Okay.
Okay,
I hope there's many more of these to come.
yeah.
So the plan, just so y'all know, the plan is to, currently, right now, we're obligated to the 220 plus any overage that occurs. I've communicated to him that our maximum demand would be, we commit to the 220 and not the overage. And to also for DOT to add in the photometric lighting plan that we want to see there. So his ultimate goal is to get the 220 from us, and that's it. And hopefully we'll have the overage done by DOT and the photometric plan, and I told him equally important is the start date to remain the same.
So trying to not make us shoulder that extra 105
Correct.
that they wanted to throw at us.
105 plus any overage.
And the
plus-
overage,
Yes.
50% of the overage and stuff. And again, that's where I feel that, it's not just us. It's, you talk to other communities. These are the agreements and we have really no say because we're not in the road business. And we can't just say, oh, we'll not use you DOT, we're gonna go use someone else. Because they're not our roads, but they're basically dictating, kind of like the sheriff's department dictates our contract. We have no control, but if we have help in the House and Senate with this kind of stuff, I mean, this is great. I mean, this is really good. So, and
Christina, do you need a motion on this?
I do.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve resolution, I don't know what it is.
There's no resolution number, so you'll just state
Okay.
the
Resolution to
title.
reaffirm.
Yeah, you'll state the title of the resolution.
so in the
What do
resolution,
y'all
it
do?
says.
I don't have it in front of me. Somebody else do
Okay,
it.
so, but just to be clear, in the resolution, it does say we're on the hook for 50% over. If I read that right. Whereas the new estimated cost of the project is
Yeah, you're right,
$1,000,009.
yeah.
Costs exceed the total estimate will be shared equally between NCDOT 50%. Well, that should be removed.
That is part of the agreement now. So I mean, technically speaking, we still have to,
They're just saying they're just saying we split it 50/50.
But the goal from David is for us not to be on the hook for that.
That's correct. He's gonna try that, but technically speaking, we still have signed an agreement that says we still are paying 50%. So regardless.
This just allows him to move forward saying,
Right.
if I can do better than this, but this is just to get him to move
Right,
forward.
okay,
Regardless, we still have to pay
Affirming
50%.
what we've already
Right.
signed for,
right,
That's right.
and that's
This
it.
is basically a respit out of the contract we've already signed.
okay.
Yeah.
So what's not in here is that 105 that they came at us
Yes.
because that's not in this contract. So it's the surprise add-on
Correct.
we learned about. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution to reaffirm the Village of Marvin's commitment to contribute $220,000 to the right-of-way acquisition and construction of North Carolina DOT Project U6088, a roundabout to be constructed at the intersection of Newtown Road SR 1315 and Marvin Road SR 1312.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Aye.
Gonna go inside, Judge?
Did everybody agree?
Motion,
They did.
everyone agreed, right? Motion was unanimous?
Yeah.
So just so y'all know, now that we've changed the way we're doing resolution and ordinance numbers, this is how you'll see them from here forward. And whenever you make the motion, you'll need to state the actual title, just like you did, instead of the number.
Okay,
We
so
won't have
the
a number.
resolution that is XXXX on that, so we don't have a number.
It's signed afterwards because it's just for record keeping purposes.
Right, okay, but so we wouldn't know the number then?
Yeah,
You
you
would not
would.
have the number.
I actually
Just
just
did the
changed the
title.
number and gave it to you when you signed it. So the number is now 0301.
Okay, so what you're saying, in the next motion, he has to say this?
No. If you recall the last meeting that we had, we
Right.
changed the way we
Right.
did ordinances. So
Right.
from future purposes, this is how you'll always see resolutions and ordinance.
It won't have a number.
It won't have a number, and you'll need to read the title of the resolution or the ordinance, just as Councilmember Lyon
Got
just
it.
did.
Got it,
Then
okay,
they'll assign the number when they.
very good. Grazie, all right, next up we have, number 18, add item of discussion of local bill and act to extend NCGS 160A-167, defense of employees and officers, payment of judgments to persons seeking elected office. And Christina, I
Yeah.
think you have this.
I'll start on this real fast. This is something that council discussed a couple months back, and we never took any action on it. But I just noticed that y'all don't have the track changes form. So I just passed out to the people that are in attendance tonight or today the track changes, and I'll make note of what those track changes are so that Councilmember Markleese and Mayor Pro Tem can understand what it is that we're recommending to be in the local bill. But in long story short, this would be a request that we submit to our representative, David Willis, to sponsor in the state legislature to make a change in state law. And basically, where it reads, upon request made or in behalf of any member or former member of the governing body, the words or any person seeking elected office would be added basically anywhere that it references an employee or officer. So those terms that anyone seeking office would be included.
How about we add, and not that I'm an attorney, officially seeking elected office? Because you can seek elected office as a write-in. And I'm just asking that be an attorney question, I mean, just to add to that. But officially, because we talked about, are you official, if you officially go through the process of signing up at the Board of Elections and you're on the ballot,
You guys,
yes,
hey, you guys all just cut out, like the whole thing froze, so I didn't hear anything that you just said, Joe.
okay.
I heard.
The only thing I was adding, that we add, it says, or any person seeking elected office. I just added that we may want to consider officially seeking elected office, because we don't want any candidate to be able,
Officially seeking office as registered with the Board of E.
officially seeking office by registering with the Board of Elections. So we don't want anyone to be able to, utilize this unless they're officially on the ballot and officially signed up through the Board of Elections. Go ahead.
But don't you also, should we also put on there that are successful in winning?
I don't know what the terminology is, but I agree. It's like,
I would agree, yeah.
but in the end, I mean, is there recourse for those that didn't get in for whatever reason? I don't know.
I don't think you're gonna sue somebody that didn't.
Yeah, you don't
Get
sue
a lot.
for losing.
Right.
So,
I mean, losers do, but
Right.
not.
Right. Yeah.
And Christina, is there a way to make this retroactive?
Let's see. I'm working on some language. Hang on. Yeah, I mean, I can add some language in here, but I need to figure out how to word it.
Okay, well, don't you think we need to make it retroactive?
Do y'all want to give me a time frame?
I'd say, all right, when does the time frame start? If I said 2 years, does the time frame start 2 years from when this bill is passed, or 2 years from today? Because if it takes 6 months, and then
then you're out of the time window.
then you're out of the time window. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you want to say retroactive 2 years from the time this becomes
From
law?
the,
No, because it could take 3 years to become law.
because it could take 2 years to become law, and then you're out of the window.
Well, council members are 4-year, most are 4-year terms. Make it 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, so make it 4 years.
Okay.
That works for me.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm trying to
think that's
figure out some language on, it would be on the second page where it says, section 1C. We would add some type of language in there about being successful in a civil judgment or civil action. I'll have to get with the attorney and reword that, but we'll add a section in there.
And is it only for civil, federal, and election? Like challenge? What are we trying to do here?
This statute doesn't even reference like federal, it just says civil. So
Well, I mean, federal was what we were sued in, so.
okay, I'll confirm with
We
Jackie.
may want to make sure that we're covering what we want.
And in this bill, who's actually doing the covering?
The village would be, or the municipality.
Okay, so the municipality could act now. How is that ratified, or how is it? It comes before the council, and the council decides.
Yeah, so
If
yes.
there's a warranted decision, and any of those who are.
There will need to be a policy for that.
So what happens if the whole current, I know that, but the whole current council is sued and stuff like that, then no one would be affected. How do we make a decision? It goes to the Board of Adjustments?
No. It would be a monetary expenditure. So just as any other monetary expenditure, the board would have to approve it if it's not in the budget. So.
But what I'm saying is, if the whole board is sued,
Correct.
how do you get to a majority when they have to recuse themselves because
Yeah, who does it get then deferred to if the entire council is sued?
Oh yeah, that's a chaplain question. I have no idea.
Okay, so that's just where I'm going with this. Like we all get sued and stuff, and then we want to make amendments, it's like, who can vote on it? Well, you couldn't because you were all sued because you're directly
But
affected.
that's outside the scope of this, that would be,
Understand.
that would be local. So we're basically, though, what we're trying to
It would
do
go to a board of adjustments. I
rewriting the
think.
law that will govern all municipalities within the state with this.
Correct.
Is what we're saying.
This is just giving the legal authority for the local governments to take action. What that action means is really gonna be up to the attorney of that municipality to decide,
Okay.
and or the board.
But it's not
Correct.
requiring them to, right?
The,
This is
the
optional.
local bill needs to get passed first,
Right,
and once the local bill gets passed, then we can make a policy on how it would work.
okay,
And Joe, it would be, if the entire board got sued, the entire board would not vote on the entire board. The entire board, everybody would vote on you, and you would recuse yourself. And then everybody would vote on Andy, and so Andy would recuse himself.
There you
Okay.
go.
That's how you do it.
okay.
Okay.
So to summarize, everyone seems to be in agreement with submitting the local bill to David Willis for consideration to the Senate and the House at the state level to make this change for the state in its entirety. With the conditions that we get with the attorney to add some language in there about officially seeking office by registering with the Board of Elections, and to make it retroactive 4 years, and to add a clause in there about being successful in civil action / judgment, and to make sure we solidify that it could be federal, state, local, whatever. Is that correct? Is that the consensus of the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if I can get a motion for someone to request me submit this to Representative Willis with those changes,
And that's fine. Do we have to have anything about prevailing say it goes to court and we're all individually spending money, but, because it may not always prevail, but if you prevail, then there's action should be taken. Does that make sense?
I did,
If
she said
the
that.
word that I used was successful, so I can change that to be prevailing party.
Okay, prevail, okay. All right, I'm good with it then.
So you wanted a motion,
I do, yes.
So does everyone want to tackle that motion?
and the motion would be to submit to.
Do y'all want me to give you a motion and somebody say move it?
Yeah, because I don't have anything in front of me to say, so yeah, do it and I'll say move.
Okay, so the suggested motion would be to authorize the manager to submit a proposed local bill to amend General Statute 160A, 167 for defense of employees and officers, payment of judgment to persons seeking office as discussed and amended within this meeting.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So next up, now we.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And thank David Willis for taking that on too. Next up, we have communications.
Didn't you want to do an open topic?
Well, yeah, we have open topics. Do we have any open topics we want to discuss? No, nothing from the council. Moving on. F, communications, discussion, consideration, communication topics for. No, it comes in here.
Okay.
Topics for April 2021.
Okay, before we jump into the list, I'd like to give you just a quick update on our communications. We started off moving to a more professional Facebook, an official public agency Nextdoor account. We're now on Twitter, and we have changed our YouTube channel, which was only used for housing meeting recordings, and you can only access them from our website. We've changed it to a public profile, so people from YouTube can go directly to our website, and people from our website can go back and forth. Everything's easier to find, and we can eventually use that outlet for future content, whether it be videos about the new Village Hall, about facility rentals at the park, community gardens, upcoming projects, presentations, what have you. One thing I really want to point out is that in my clerks class recently, we were talking about sunshine lists, which is our residence list. And when I told them how many people we had on our residence list, no one could believe it. We have an unprecedented reach compared to other municipalities. Have over 1,000 people on our residence list, and a lot of places don't have hardly anyone. So I think that's really cool that we have that, and that's a good tool for us to use. That was most of what I was going to say. But have us going to these new platforms will potentially get us a wider audience, a differing audience of differing demographic. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Well, it's encouraging that people are getting on that list because that means they're at least somewhat involved in the village's activities.
Mm-hmm. We inherited. When I came on, we already had a large list, and I think it's grown by 10% or something like that.
That's great. I'm loving the public participation. Being informed.
And continue we get feedback from individuals that say, hey, what you guys are doing is great because the communication is out there. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've continued to hear that from Joe Public, if you will, when I get a chance to talk to them on those hours. So do you want to go through the...
Yeah, so look here, this is the list of draft topics. If you guys have anything you want to add, anything you want to take off, this is the time.
So I picked stuff that was gonna be on there for April and then, oh no, I guess, never mind. Okay,
Well,
yeah.
We-
Do we wanna add Ramadan?
What?
Ramadan? If we're doing holidays, I feel like we need to do them all.
Festivus.
Yep, that's just for the rest of us. It'd be April 13th.
That's a multi-day holiday, so I'd have to see how that ranges. But
You can just say start of. Then tax day, I don't know if it's, because some people's taxes are still due April 15th and some aren't, so I don't know if we want to make note of that.
I'll look into it.
Earth Day is April 22nd. And then I think that we had picked a day to do trash cleanup that we need to put on there that
Yeah.
I didn't see.
You guys chose that but after this was already sent out. So that was April 24th for the cleanup. I still don't have details on that event, so once I get those from Rohit or PRG or whoever's working on that, we'll get that sent out.
So, I'll make a suggestion here, just because I'm involved in teaching a group of individuals that require service hours. And people have come to me and say, how do I get my service hours? So if we were able to do, and I know I've reached out to Derek and saying, is there anything they can do over at the park to be considered? Because kids have to have so many service hours.
Are you talking about a calendar event? Or are you talking about volunteer hours, Joe?
I'm talking about communication topics.
No, you're not.
That you're communicating that we can provide, not necessarily calendar events, but providing isn't that what we're on?
So you're asking for an individual blurb to say there are volunteer opportunities with the village so you can earn service hours.
Yes.
Okay, that makes, I got it.
Okay. I thought you were trying to get your kids to sign up for the cleanup day.
No.
Who, and if I'm to do that, who should they contact for those?
Joe.
I can do it.
So in fairness, and I know that Derek probably won't.
I agree, Jamie.
You just vote me in or out. What I have done in the past is I've reached out to Derek, because there always seems to be stuff at the park, whether it's just going around cleaning up and stuff. Derek usually can find something for them, and it's whether we have it right away or not. But I have asked Derek in the past. He goes, sure, send me have them contact me, and I'll get them something to do so he can do that. So.
And the cleanup day is a good opportunity for it too. So.
And I don't know if there's anything you guys can think of too here that
I don't think cleaning the office counts.
picking up a public hearing sign maybe, and bringing it back to the office.
I don't think they want 5 minutes. But yeah, I got it. I got it. We can figure out some things. That's
And I don't know if there was something or not.
Okay, good. Any other topics? Moving on.
I think we should add board vacancies. I forgot to put that on there because we have a board of adjustments vacancy now. So.
Okay, you're saying moving on from communications?
Yeah.
One more thing. We talked about this yesterday in our design review, or designing of the interior stuff. The interior decorator suggested that maybe we reach out to the community via our website or however we reach out to everyone about donating or considering donating something that's related to the history of Marvin for Village Hall. Like if you go in most municipalities, they have a display case. Maybe it's old photos. Maybe it's something that is a relic that they would like to be on permanent display for us to consider. They can send photos, whatever. There's a lot of stuff out there, right? You know, a little piece of Marvin. I think we at one point when we tore down that building that was at Eford Park, instead of just getting rid of everything, we had a silent bid. You were able to go in and put a bid on whatever we had to just go out and so you were able to get something for that.
So if I might suggest might suggest we add a future month's kind of tablet in here so that we can put that down and make it like November-ish where we send something out because we don't have anywhere to store anything right now. So
yeah, but we want to tell people before November so they can start thinking about stuff. And like even if somebody wants to make something like Barbara had suggested, like if somebody's got like old wood and they wanted to make like a picture frame or something to like put stuff in, you know, repurpose things. I don't think we want to wait that late, and people can just kind of hang on to it for now.
You could
and to make it clear, it's just to be considered for display at the Marvin, some sort of any type of history that they may. I think we may get a lot from the guy who's doing the documentary. We could get some cool photos from that.
Target date in there for receiving this stuff when Village Hall is completed, so that people get a gauge of where we're trying to go. We don't get inundated with stuff tomorrow. It gets pointed towards completion of the building.
Okay.
Because that's what it's for.
So
does that help you enough to kind of give you direction?
Yes, I can put something out saying, hey, when we have Village Hall built, we would like the community to donate items of historical significance or objects crafted from reused materials.
I wouldn't even go that far in depth. I would just say if you have an item that touches on the history of Marvin that you'd like to consider donating, the Village Hall with this thing is considering, and it's not necessarily you give it to us, we're going to do it. It has to be considered by approved by the council. Yeah, this is something we want to have on a display, whether it's repurposed wood, whatever it is and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be tax deductible, I'm not sure.
Okay, you can work on something.
Yeah, I got it. No worries.
Okay.
All right. That's all I had. Next up, I have reports and updates. Manager's report.
So just wanted to make a note. I don't have a lot of detail on this, but per the last stimulus package that was signed at the federal level, we are expected to get approximately $1.9 million. I don't know what the purpose of that is. That I should have given. Oh no.
What is this?
This shows you at the bottom the projections down. Marvin's at the bottom. 1.9. Our expected first allotment is on 6/15 of 21, and it's $995,000. There are a lot of restrictions to this money. I don't know the answers yet of what we can spend this money on, or how the process even works. This is fresh off the press. Just letting y'all know that this is expected, and I will have more details later when they become available.
See, so is this just thinking about this and thinking about the restrictions and why the stimulus bill was passed? Is this something that more than likely might be something that could go towards the Marvin Heritage District development, being that it would be an economic stimulus for the village in that light? I mean, that's kind of where I'm kind of thinking, maybe.
I honestly have no clue. I mean, there's so many restrictions on it right now, and it's so new. I know it can go to local investment, but what that definition of local investment means, I don't know the answer to that. I do know that it can go to infrastructure, but right now what I'm hearing is primarily related to water and sewer infrastructure and not sidewalks, not anything else. So I don't
Water
know.
and sewer could possibly
Yeah.
coincide with Marvin, that's where I'm kind of going with this. Joe and I agree on this whole stimulus bill and all this stuff, but if money is going to come down this way, regardless of what our feeling is on it, I'd like to try to at least put it towards the most benefit, I guess. So that's why I'm just thinking about, is this going to be a help to the Marvin Heritage District? Is that what we want to try to look towards, putting the most investment in, or most research into what can we do with it?
Well, my biggest flag for me is even governors of states that are getting money don't know the details of when you sign this. I think there's talk about that they can not reduce taxes for their state in accepting this money. All these things that we don't know about that I'd like to get clarification on before we do anything. I also like to.
So, we don't know what's gonna happen, we don't know what the restrictions are, so instead of like guessing or saying, oh, this might happen, let's let Christina gather some information and come back to us, and then we can, make an educated, have an educated conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will make note that, just so y'all are aware, this is gonna require a lot of staff time, because there's gonna be a lot of strings tied to it. There's gonna be a lot of reporting, a lot of things that have to coincide with this. So just as an FYI, it's not just gonna be a quick check right at here. It's gonna take a lot of administration.
So you're saying it's going to cost us $20,000 to $30,000 just to get the
It possibly
get it
could,
straightened
yeah.
out
I
in
mean,
staff
it could.
time?
Can I
Yeah.
just throw out, what are the chances that we can go to the government, League of, and let them do are they gonna do a pass at this to give the cliff notes of what this is?
Yes, yes.
So, should we invest time in trying to figure it out and just not let
League
someone
of
else?
Municipalities, you mean?
Right.
That's what's going on now, yes.
Okay, so let them do it, y'all don't spend any time on it, I wouldn't spend any time.
No, what I'm saying is, yes, the League of Municipalities is definitely gonna do a Cliff Notes version of it. And they're gonna get down to the detail of what that bill says and what's allowable, what's not. But what I'm saying is, after that's decided, there's a lot of reporting that's gonna go along with it, because it's federal
If we
dollars.
accept it.
Yes, because it's gonna be like a federal grant, basically, which is a lot of grant administration involved.
Yeah, so, my just recommendation would be, I would just back burner this from staff
Yeah.
standpoint, just back burner it. I'm not,
And that's what we're doing. We're doing that. I mean, we're not spending a whole lot of time
Do
investigating.
you have an estimated timeline?
Yes, June of this year, we would get basically $1 million.
there you go.
Okay, but I'm saying for not the parameters.
Oh, so I was in a webinar Tuesday, I believe it was, and they basically had the same discussion that we're having now. It's out there. We know there's like 4 categories: local investment, infrastructure, giving it to like private nonprofits, and there's one more that doesn't really apply to us, like tourism. What that definition really means to the detail of what those categories are, we don't know yet. And so the league is basically taking a stab at taking their attorneys, looking through that bill and trying to get some more clarity from the Treasury to what that exactly means for us. So we are allowing them to do so, and just going to spit that back to all the
That's what I'm
municipalities.
asking, is like, has the league given you any kind of a timeline when they feel like they're gonna have this information mulled through and spit out for us to digest?
I mean, it's just dependent on what their attorneys, I don't know how long the bill is, but I'm sure it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages. So as soon as they can get to it, I would expect pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks, but I can't tell you definitively.
Okay, that's what I was kind of getting for, is in the next couple of weeks, then we should have some more information.
That's my speculation.
Okay.
I will say one thing about it and then we can move on, but we just signed a resolution, if you remember, that,
May of 2020.
May of 2020, that basically said that we were complaining about these federal stimulus dollars that are going in, and we signed a resolution asking them not to add pork to this. And if it doesn't directly affect the COVID, and again, it's free money. I'm watching across the country very conservative, fiscally conservative governors or mayors saying, yeah, we're going to take this money and stuff, but at some point it has to get paid back. And it's like, it's not just free money, it's paid back in the sense that our taxes will go up because we're at now $30 trillion and stuff. So, but we signed a resolution saying that focus on the issue of COVID. They haven't even spent monies from the first bill that was passed on COVID, yet now it's free money, and I see this, the start of a lot of concern, so I'm hoping we take a very close look at this. So.
Just letting you know, our lunch should be here in like the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay. That said, anything else on the manager's report?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on, we have planner's report, Rohit, annexation update.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I wanted to give an update on annexation. To be blunt, we've not really been having much success on both the receiving petitions side or the contacting HOAs side of this task. We've received 2 people's petitions to annex voluntarily, and we've not had any success in meeting with any HOAs. After the one that contacted us with the questions, there was a very big loss of momentum in that field. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about, what can our options be going forward, and also go back to proposing a local bill for annexation where we didn't pursue this originally because the standards of proving that we offer services without these properties being taxed are very high, but Austin created kind of like a diagram that shows, a limited amount of area in our annexation area. So not the whole thing by far, but a small area like the chimneys and the holes could be shown that we are providing our tax services, our tax money towards services that benefit them, such as, the future Bonds Grove Church roundabout, trails along the thoroughfares, and police service when you're in a neighborhood and then another house in the neighborhood is not annexed in yet, they'll still,
So,
that 5-minute response time.
And before anyone interjects, I'll just mention, Austin can show the map and show y'all if you want to, but this is going to be a local bill for next
year.
season, next session, not this year. So we have time to work on it, but it's not going to be something that we push immediately.
So refresh my memory, Rohit, you said we haven't had success. What specifically have we done and who has done it to reach out to the HOAs?
I'll answer that question, Rohit. We spent an exorbitant amount of staff time putting together, I think, 1,500 letters that went out to all the property owners. We have reached out to all the HOA contacts that we have to schedule individual meetings with them. We've also sent flyers that show the benefits to being annexed in. We've had some correspondence with people emailing and us getting back information to them, but we've only had 2 petitions to date to annex in, and we've had no scheduled HOA meetings to kind of pitch the idea. We've also sent y'all the contact list for y'all to reach out as council members. I'm not sure where that stands, but that's what we've done at a staff level and from an elected standpoint.
I will, we just covered this, but one of the things that I would like to throw out there to anyone who's thinking of or have thought of and just declined it, we just received $1.9 million, and those unincorporated got 0. Now, to the point that Rohit made, when you start talking about roundabouts and you start talking about trails, if I live in unincorporated, if I live in any of these neighborhoods that we want to do, they can walk those trails. They don't need a badge or a pass or a ticket or anything like that. A roundabout, that's their roundabout. We have to focus on the positives of being a resident of Marvin, and I think it goes with the trash. That's a tangible thing that we can think of. Getting better facilities, whatever the case may be, because we were part of this. So the village of Marvin got this, not Union County. So things that are tangible, I think we have to better focus on.
Well, law enforcement, because if we weren't paying for the sheriff's department to be in this vicinity, there would be 2 less deputies on the sheriff's books, and they would not be sitting here to respond to these neighborhoods, because they're required to respond. If they're sitting here and there's a call in Providence down south, they go to it. So they're getting that service paid for by the village. They're not paying for it.
They're getting quicker service.
Yeah, they're getting that response time because
But there could
they're
be,
here.
but if they were in, and that's a great point, they have service today thanks to the Village of Marvin.
Right, exactly.
They would have better service if they were to come in, because then it may be instead of 2, maybe we
You
have
could
3.
get more, right,
Maybe we have 4, maybe the times are
right.
more. So it's, again, it just goes back to tangible items that people live, that people focus on.
Right. I mean, in light of the bill, though, that substantiates the fact that we're paying for it and they're getting it for free.
Which-
and it's.
Which is contradictory to the, because if I'm them, I'm going, oh, shit. I still get the roundabout, I can still walk your trails, I can do all this,
Right.
but I'm not in the village
Yeah.
department. But when we start adding other things, security, trash, and what are the other things? Is it using
Yeah.
Eford Park at something at a cost reduction? Is it, we're just having to look at those things.
Yeah, it's quite frankly a hard sell, because it's like they're getting representation regardless without taxation. Who wants to volunteer to pay a tax? The only benefit you see is, it's truly a Marvin, in Marvin, your home is in Marvin, not, unincorporated. It all comes down really in the end to where my kid going to go to school. From a value of
Right,
a
and that's a
home and
county
stuff
thing.
like that, and that's a county thing. But, again, getting back to his question is how do we get this? I mean, it almost has to be an invitation. Maybe we can consider the upcoming May meeting that we're having, the spring meeting, town hall, is to, have a placeholding spot for specifically asking questions about, why you want to be a part of Marvin, and us be prepared, or
That's on the agenda already, annexation.
inviting those key players that can get that. Because I know I've been talking to one guy who is right across the street, right across the street from where town hall is going to be, who are not Marvin, but he's just gathering information. We sat and waited for a long time, and I probably need to circle back to him and say, hey, where are we at with us getting a meeting together? We can talk about why this is important. It's definitely a tough sell, but I think in the end, it's going to be the guys like David Willis and the things that really need to push that, because they've created the problem at Raleigh. It was a land grab back in the day. Then they said, okay, stop, and that's what created where you have half developments are Marvin sometimes, or a municipality, and some are not, or right in the middle of it.
So you guys like the idea of a local bill?
Absolutely,
I
and
don't
so does
see
the
any
League
other way of doing
of so does the League of Municipalities. That they have talked about that that has been. It's not just Marvin. It's just not our area. It's across North Carolina. That and I will say this: there was a time when certain, whether it was county or state officials, that anytime you have a municipality, that pulls more money away from their coffers. Keep that, because it's that percentage of the car or vehicle or whatever now comes into our municipality and doesn't go to the county and doesn't go to the state. So they lose out. So they complain, or did back in the day when I first started, oh, you're a town, you're just a paper town. You don't provide any services. So they looked at us as like, that's just taking away from our coffers. That money that comes into Marvin, because we get a piece of it, a little bit of
It
everything.
takes time to grow and to be able to provide
So the
services.
The ask here is that, is there anything else that y'all think of at a local level that we can do other than what we've already done? And if not, do y'all support us pursuing a local bill next session, which would be next year around this time? And if so, we've got time to to play and work on that, present further ideas to you, but.
It's a work in progress, I think, and you know what, we can almost put a resolution together to get Weddington to sign it on the WUMA and all these other, because they want it too.
Yeah, it's all,
They all want, we're talking about
this.
this.
The fact that we have an annexation agreement with Weddington does help us, so.
Okay,
Can
so,
I interrupt really quick? I really did have a hard stop at 12, so I need to go. So can you guys excuse me, please?
Move to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Vandenberg from today's meeting at, what is it? noon?
12:05.
12:05.
12:05.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Kim.
so we can add the local bill discussion and next steps to the next work session that we have. We've got plenty of time. So unless there's anything else that y'all think we should do from a staff standpoint,
I don't think it's up to you. I think it's a joint thing. I think we all have to do it, but we have to be creative in it's the message.
okay.
But you have to have some teeth in that message as well.
Y'all seen the flyer that we sent out,
Oh,
y'all
yeah.
seen all that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I
so.
don't know what else you can really do. I mean, we've given the public everything that we have to offer, and if they're not biting because, like everybody has said, why pay for it if you're already getting it? Or, you know.
We'll put the local bill on the
But I
next
think-
work session.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is the bill. I think that's
Yeah.
that's our biggest play here is to get some kind of local bill to help us.
And then the next steps, when we talk about the local bill, we can do resolutions of support within WUMA and just kind of start a big approach from that standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention that.
One
Yeah.
last thing about annexation.
Yeah. Where are we today?
I think it's Weddington.
Are we in Weddington today? Wilma?
I think you're in,
Weddington.
I thought you were in Mineral Springs, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Where were you guys last time?
We
Well,
were in West
West-
You guys should be in Mineral Springs. No, Mineral Springs is doing
No,
April,
we-
yeah.
and we
Yeah,
work with-
you're right.
It's Weddington.
Weddington.
One last thing for annexation is, I told,
Hey, who's got their mic on? Is that you, Robert?
okay.
Okay.
Staff recently discovered that one parcel adjacent to Marvin Eford Park that we own has not been annexed for some reason, and it was done deliberately. There's a parcel that's 1.66 acres that's next to the park. We've developed it for the park, but it's not in Marvin. And there's some documents included to kind of clarify about this. There's a resolution of intent, the annexation ordinance, map and site plan. Terry Patton was administrator at the time. I haven't spoken to her, but
It was done intentionally.
it was done intentionally. It says so in the resolution. We bought 5, we're annexing 4. It may have to do with Walden Pond. I'm not sure.
So what's the ask here?
The ask is, do you guys want us to prepare a resolution of intent to annex municipal owned property?
Okay,
Well-
we've already approved the resolution of intent back in
That's
the 11th.
that's not for this parcel. That was only for the other 4 parcels that became the park.
What I'd like to know before we make any decisions on it is why.
And I will say it was not, the reason was not written down anywhere. I've checked staff reports, minutes.
Have you gotten a hold of Terry?
I have not. I don't have.
She's still in Marvin.
I don't have contact information.
I have her contact.
If you-
I'd really like to know why. If there was a specific reason why, then we may not want to annex
I mean,
it. And I'd hate to do something.
well, regardless, the parcel has been developed. The parcel has trails on it, so and we already own it. So there's no distinction in it being in and out of Marvin, other than the fact that
It's not in.
it's not Marvin.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they would intentionally not put it in. There was some reason for it.
I mean, there was a big kerfuffle with Walden Pond at the
I know.
time over it.
Well,
So,
there has been.
Let me do
Wasn't
this.
on
I have
mobile.
her mobile. I assume it's still current. I can reach out to her and say, hey,
Add it to the next work session.
can you get in touch with you and explain why a small portion of Eford
Yeah.
Park
That's fine.
was not, if you can
Yeah.
recollect why that was left out.
We can add that to the next work session.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Nominate Kim Vandenberg to.
Motion to nominate
What I was
Kim.
gonna say is what's funny is I walked that yesterday. I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
I saw the properties and everything else that are bordering it, and what it's worth, it is developed.
I think we should nominate Kim to tree count.
Document every tree on that property.
Tree count that property.
There was a lot of,
You know what? Austin's gonna tell Kim to listen to the tape.
All right, it's funny you say that because there were a lot of trees down. I was going, wow, like this should need to be cleaned up. I mean, there's a lot of trees that are down on this particular stretch. So anyway,
All right.
do they?
Thank you. All right, so we got sort of direction there. We're good.
Good.
Rohit, anything else?
I do have one more update for you guys, and this is basically going to be an update on Gene Stowe's documentary. He gave us an update saying that they've wrapped up filming last week, and while they're still looking for donations, they did create a nonprofit for which donations can be given through for it to be tax deductible, and they've just had a lot of success with donations so far. So
They have or have not?
they have
Okay.
had success with donations, and they've also got a lot of volunteers, and venues have been offering for free, and actors, and even the production team are doing it for a small proportion of the cost. And they also did some of the documentary by drawing instead of filming. So they've cut a lot of costs, they've got a lot of donations, they just finished filming and they're almost done putting it together. And that's basically the update. He sent me an email asking me to present this to council, but he did not ask for it. He just wanted you guys to know that the documentary has been success in the making, and it's almost ready to be presented.
And
It's almost done.
Bob, did you get the casting call? Are you in?
I'm waiting for my casting call. Can you please get in contact with Rohit where I can meet the farmer?
the farmer Joe,
I'm the landowner.
farmer Bob. So they did establish like a 501(c)(3).
Yes, there is. And if you want to donate it through that means, he said that you should contact him. His email is stowgene@gmail.com, or call him at 980-425-8633. He said he wanted you to know that as well. Just call him if you want.
980-425-3633. Okay.
980-425-8633. If you want to donate through this nonprofit, that you should call him or email him, and he'll set that up for you.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I just bought that book and ordered it. Just my son is interested in reading it, so
Very good.
yes.
That's
I'm
great
excited
news.
to see that.
Yeah, that's great news. So.
Yeah, Rohit, tell him that my contract for the Christmas Chronicles 3 is coming up. I need to know if he wants me or not.
Have you tried this suit on yet?
I got it. You want to see the jacket?
No, thank you. Okay, anything else, Rohit?
That's all I have for Planner's report today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our lunch is here, by the way.
Okay. Do we want to finish and
Might as well just finish it.
agenda items? And next up, we have agenda items, review of action items, and ongoing action item list.
I'll just start and say we're gonna plan a field trip to Take a K. If anybody wants to attend, I'll send out information for that, and we'll have to do a notice of quorum potentially. I'm gonna ask Chaplin about the conflict of interest forms and how that would equate to removal of a board member or qualifications of a board member. We will issue a notice to proceed and get the contract signed for both the sanitary sewer project and the village hall project. On the Marvin Heritage District, we will present the zoning district in a simple format to the committee as of April 1st. And we will also send that map that y'all apparently saw in the Coffee for Cancel to the rest of the board. We will add the park property annexation to the next work session. The local bill will also be on the next work session for the annexation discussions. I will submit the local bill as requested for the defense of employees and officers to Representative Willis immediately. We will issue the RFP for solid waste here shortly, which y'all will not see that again. We will schedule a joint meeting with the Board of Weddington, the town board, and there's a couple of things that we will table that were in the agenda. And I will get some more information on the American Rescue Fund and report back to y'all whenever I get that information.
Okay,
I got nothing. I yield back.
all right. Anything else? All right, council comments.
Do you guys want to do the list?
Well, I guess we could review the list real quick. Is there anything on this list that you guys see that needs to be removed or updated?
We've done.
I'm good.
So the village render, village center.
It's on hold.
On hold, okay.
Yes.
Please. Signs always send welcome sign. Contracts. I'm good.
Does the
Yeah, I'm good.
does the staff have any input on any of this stuff?
We're good.
Y'all good?
Yep.
We are talking about changing the evening coffee with council and doing some sort of healthy snack. I know, I brought cheese.
Charcuterie, what you said?
I know, I brought cheese and nuts in individual packets, so you're not reaching in and stuff. They make them, and I buy them at Costco, and they're very reasonable, and no one took any, but there was only one guest. But,
So you had one guest?
oh yes, she was from the Heritage District, she was on the board, and she's a planning board member.
I was gonna say.
We spent an hour with
Melinda
her.
Daniel.
Melinda Daniels, yeah.
I thought, I
Yeah,
was asking
it
where
was-
she was going, because she was probably lost.
Oh,
I was
yes.
gonna get directions at Village Hall.
No, it was actually a very good conversation that we came to some good agreements, which we talked about earlier, so. That said, council comments, Kim, oh, you have nothing to say? Fine, we'll move on.
I heard Kim.
Kidding,
No comment,
Kim.
Bart.
I know, you may be listening. Bob, you have anything?
Hi, y'all.
Okay. Andy?
I think I'm good.
Okay, Jamie?
I'll speak for all staff, thanks. I mean, y'all do a great job. Thank you for all you do and keeping us going and keeping us running, so thank you.
Great, thank you. I as well will reiterate, thanking staff. Christina, I know you've been busting it to get this all done. Austin, same, Rohit, and thank you for all your service. I'd also like to thank all those who participated in the bid, the contractors who took the time to bid. I was very pleased to see as many as we got, given the environment that we're in, and especially the prices we got, I think. So I'm very excited about that, but thank you, even though you may have not won the contract, but thank you for participating. And also a quick shout out to David Wills for sponsoring the bill that he had put forth in front of us. I appreciate the efforts and of that as we move forward. So, and with that, I will. We're not doing a closed session. It's been tabled, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
12:18 p.m.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Let's eat.